Just rolling up the weed, ladies stop by my page when they scrolling up their feed. So I block the young chicks that ain't old enough for trees, but I like whatever comment that they bold enough to leave. Rappers follow me cause rhymes from my catalog read like an intergalactic battle log. Satellite feed to the spaceship. When traveling, my documents are placed in the basement of the Vatican, where scientists try to duplicate my rhyme patterns. To do this, they must lubricate the mind matter and find data to match the kind that I dispatch. I lace rhymes in the fabric of space-time. To meet you, I'm traveling back plenty of nights for him, like Phineas when he stabbed that Midianite whore with the javelin. That's in the Torah. I'm in the more than just recording for the art of slaughter. I told the king to pay tribute and he brought his daughter. Exotic trees in my horticulture, fly aeronautic products for the vultures. Raps hidden in imported sculptures. Got my custom broker scrambling to meet me at the border open. Connect got money to lobby to keep the border open. You ain't got no rhymes or no style neither. Cats get confused, heard more lines than wild zebras. Yo. Hey yo, you couldn't imagine the colors in my kaleidoscope, the effervescent essence provided by my exotic folk, regarded of how you plotted on nautical wavelengths and brought it from the basement to the pavement. The same shit as astrologists and astrophysicists. The love and knowledge of a lyricist is serious. The theory is mysteriously furious periods of time that it took. Fuck that, you ain't hearing it if I'm capping on the track is the capstone of the pyramid. I'm an expert and it's an experiment. Dropping metaphors is my favorite thing. I rock fly shoes, think David Slingshot.
Yo. Shout out to Albert Jenkins.
Yeah, I said it. Here's a couple of nice guys. Here's a bad.
Alright, what's up, y'all? We're gonna get right into it. Gonna put up a comment, like the video, and make me smile.
I've been bout my papyrus since I've been in it. Put me in the debate, you know I'm gon' win it. If I scream black power, don't get timid. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. If I say black city, I'm talking about Kemet. Primary research and we done pushed it to the limits. All you dudes finished. The king counting cattle up with brother Reggie. When I'm in Oakland, smoking, bro, they love the Chevy. Back in the day, it was the spokes on the chariot. Long procession when the king got carried out to every spot. Woman looking nice as ISIS. I read ancient texts, so my advice is priceless. Nubian gold, your ice don't entice us. Beating me harder than counting grains in your spices. Your heart was beating, but your brain dead. You're lifeless. Yo, they ain't nothing like us, yo. Don't try to make me mad. Make me smile and say you love me, man. That's real right there. Come on. You should listen to your main man's advice. Do a YouTube and apologize like Dice. Or the back fade coming like the Antichrist. Egyptologist sent me reading and said that I'm nice. I got a stela with your name on it. I'm like Sargon. You the type of dude wake up and your car gone. Told, because of the money you owe. Before you stream, you should clean up that humble abode. Like Akhenaten City for my woman in gold. I keep the pseudos running, people coming in droves. You catch me on a live stream with Pan-African James. When we building, call us by our African names. I'm for the children. And ain't nothing happen to change. We on that black hype, so we still packing them things for protection. Got connection. My complexion, pure black, that's the S. Make me smile. You love me? Show me some love. All right.
Do. How y'all doing? Again, that could be found on the Fights Over Egypt album. What's up? Where was I at? I was pulling up the Gnome map. What happened when oh yeah, okay. Maybe it's this one. All right. So we often start here just to get us to understand a few things. When I zoom out, and we talk about this often, when I zoom out, you can get a whole picture of Egypt. I don't know why I can't scroll left or right. But whatever. You can get somewhat of a, it's just going to the left of the page and not letting me scroll over. But anyway, y'all can see the entirety of Egypt. Right? What we call the entirety of Egypt today, some say was synonymous with a term called Kemet. But when we look at one of the first uses of the terms, we find out that that's not true. And so I could go through this source by source, and you can see I'm supposed to be going on Sonetta later. Hopefully we get that popping. We're gonna just talk about the black people. The key people who called themselves black in Egypt. Simple information. But if I click into the map and you look at some of the details, you can find the area over here, and I'll blow it up, called the Wadi Netron. Sheket Hemat, I guess. Sheket Hemat was the Wadi Netron. Right? And everyone can clearly see that this would be inside of the areas that we call Egypt. But when we go to the text corpus, we start to find problems. Because the first use of the term, I'm not saying the first use of the term. I know earlier uses. But in this first attestation in the text corpus, a person living in the Wadi Netron says he's going to go down to Kemet. So you got a problem right there out the gate. When it is argued that Kemet means Kemet because of the black silt and soil, a person living in the Wadi Netron would possibly not even have to go down anywhere to get to the black silt, unless he's on a mountain or at a higher elevation. And as I discussed with Dr. Jonathan Winneman, down doesn't necessarily indicate southern. But after a person living, and his name was Sheketi, or this eloquent farmer, they call him the eloquent peasant in the English rendition of the story. I don't want nobody to get around that we do have a primary attestation of somebody living in what we would call the greater areas of Egypt said he was going to go down to Kemet. And so not only do we have that left to us to scrutinize, but also he gives particular directions along the route where he was going to go to get to Kemet. And so I don't know if he reached Kemet, but he definitely left the Wadi Netron and went south, which would give us more of an indication that when he said he's going down to Kemet, that's the way his intentions was to go south more than where he was. Not his intentions, but that's what he actually did. He went south. So if you can't come to the text corpus and go to the first page for the term Kemet, what's up to the chat? Peace to the chat. I see y'all. Let's let this text corpus load up, man. You see the first attestation they have is from the text we're talking about. Well, they say this is a 12th or 13th dynasty text. And all of y'all can read what it says for yourself. We could definitely go over the Medu Neter, but we really don't have to go over it all. It says exactly what it says in the translation. Like, this is a good translation. But the term of scrutiny would be right here. It looks like it says hot, but if you notice in the transliteration, it says height. The I is a soft, is a weak third, so it falls off. And this term, if we click into the text and scrutinize it, so this is the question here, and this is where me and the scholar Jonathan Winneman left off, but I didn't want to talk about the additional research that I've done on this term. I know he's done additional research on it too. You feel me? But if I click into this term, it's going to say to descend or to go down. Something like that. It says to descend, to fall, or to strike. It doesn't say anything about going down. To descend, to fall, to stumble. To descend, to fall, to strike, to descend, to fall. We know a descent is going down, but that descent doesn't always indicate southern. So I clicked into the term to look at some of the other uses of it. And one of the Old Kingdom uses was someone going to go down or descend to the water. I say go down because it makes more sense. But whatever, to descend to the water. Now they're using it as down in the second attestation. So this qualifies my usage. And this is what I wanted to say, but we could keep going. But you can see some of the scholars actually translate this term as down. May the milk fall down. May the milk descend. The very beautiful, peaceful descent into the grave of the earth. We also know that descent is down. The grave of eternity, I'm sorry. The grave of eternity. Anyway, I want to see when they translate it literally as down like they did right here. Down, big guy. I went out of my city and left my region after I spoke the truth there and practiced justice there. Now notice, in the 5th dynasty, they don't use descend or down when translating this term. Here in the translation where you see Hi-N-E, M Sapat, it's like, I have descended upon, not from, but they say I left my region. He just say, I left my nom, my sapat. Then they say, after I spoke truth there, I had made truth. I practiced justice there. But it is to descend. So if we go back, we see we can use this term to say down. Here it says drop quick. That was only on the first page. And the term we're looking at, I'll show it again. The descent into the realm of the dead. All right, so let's go back to the initial. Behold, I am about to go down to Egypt. Notice even this translation said down and didn't put descend upon. And when we look at the map, as I showed you, the person saying this was right here. So let's talk about that for a minute. How does that make sense that you say that Kemet meant all of Egypt when the person right there standing in Egypt is saying he about to go down to Kemet? Ain't that easy? So in the same text corpus, if you continue, so basically what we're doing is looking over the attestations. You see it says attestation, search result. We're looking at the attestations of when the term Kemet was used in primary text. And it should be listed in chronological order. But you got to say that if something is out of place, it's probably just the fault of the text corpus. This doesn't mean that this is the first use of it. This is the first use of it in the text corpus. He's going to go down to Kemet. Then the farmer went down to Egypt. See, that don't make sense. If you translate the term KMT as Egypt, you have a problem. Because the farmer is within the area we know as Egypt. So when it says, then the farmer went down to Egypt, you would think he was in the Levant. When it says, then the farmer went down to Egypt, you would think he was at least in the Sinai Peninsula, which is still Egypt. But he was in the areas we know today as Egypt. So you got to translate this proper and say, then the farmer went down to Kemet, which appears to be deeper south. And I'm going to show you another attestation from the 16th, 17th dynasty that'll let you know why. It's from the 17th dynasty. All right. And so this is another story from, they say from about the 12th dynasty, where this is a person who left Sinewe, or he left Egypt to go live amongst Asiatics. And when he came back to Egypt, all the people was looking at him crazy. Right? But I'm going to get to the next attestation we're looking for. It's from Kamose, and it'll be about the 16th dynasty, so I simply could look right here and know we ain't there yet. I'm going to page 3. We're still in the 13th dynasty. Now, there are some uses in these middle dynasties which will cause, and he made the land, they saying, i.e. Egypt, prosper when it was dry. But let's look at the term they actually use. It just says ta. Over here we see at Kemet, he found Egypt also ruined, literally Egypt, in that it had been perished and the palaces had fallen into ruins. I don't want to read attestations that don't. Or here it is, Kamose. See, they say 17th dynasty. It don't say here, it just say Kamose. This particular text is translated by Egyptologists under their understanding that they were referring to all of Egypt when they used the term Kemet or KMT. So here where it says they got more than one copy of this text. So the rendition that they're coming from now has missing parts here. That's why it's in parentheses. But they know it says each man owns. Now they got his portion of this. See that now this part of, notice the difference here. I need y'all to be peeking game, man. I wanted to show you something. Damn, what happened? Oh, what? Well, here, it's right here. This is in brackets. Brackets means it's really there, but it got broken off of the text. It's missing from the text, but they use other text to confirm that that part is there. But I want to leave off the second part of what I said. Brackets mean it's missing from the text. Right? But parentheses means something different. And if you didn't peep game, you wouldn't have peeped game. You wouldn't even seen that right there. Parentheses mean we injecting this. So, and I point this out to grammarians all the time. They have to inject this right here to make this sentence make sense. Because they think Egypt, Kemet was all of Egypt. So they are saying that this ta in front of Kemet is a demonstrative pronoun, this. We also talks about how this does not work without that. This is the opposite of that, basically. Not the opposite, but you know what I mean. This and that. But if this is not the demonstrative pronoun this, and it is simply ta, the, and we know Kemet wasn't Egypt, it is black, they say black land, which you could even use, but really we say the black city or black community. What it really says in the Medu Neter is better than them injecting part of to make sense out of them translating ta as a demonstrative pronoun this. Because this Egypt don't make no sense. Remember, you got this and that go together. So if there's a this Egypt, then there is a that Egypt. You can't not have that. So Jonathan Winterman was like, yeah, that doesn't really kind of make no sense. That is kind of weird. No, it ain't kind of weird. What it is y'all translating this ta as a demonstrative pronoun when you should look at it as a definite article. The, then what does Kemet mean after the? We already told you what Kemet means. Black city or black community. And then you got a perfect translation. And if we read on, we read, sharing the land with me. Each man owns his portion. Now, man, every, I don't know how hair means owns. This is his part of the Black community, sharing this land with me. Now, let's go slower. Because the translation, we're going to go into the whole text so y'all can peep game. Man, I hate when they do that. 200%. Now, check game. First of all, if you don't know what he's doing, he kind of like getting that almond about the situation he going through with all these Asiatic people coming into Egypt and taking over. Then he got to deal with this kingdom from the south called Cush. And Cush was ready. And so he was kind of like crying, not really crying right here, but he like pleading like, man, what's going on, man? Why is it like this? Well, I'm going to read it in the words of the translators, which says, the mighty and victorious king in the Theban canton, Waji Kepera, endowed with life forever, is the excellent king. His majesty spoke in the palace to the council of high officials who were in his retinue. I would like to understand what it is for my power. See, he like why am I even the pharaoh, bruh? Because he like, each man owns his portion of this part of Egypt, sharing the land with me. Now that's the way they translated it. But I'm saying it go, I would like to understand what it is for my power. And really he's saying each man owns his portion of this part of the Black community, sharing the land with me. So that makes sense. But let's keep going. A man cannot rest or come to rest because he is shaved bald by the tributes of the Bedouin Asiatics. If you get shaved bald by your tribute, that means you have to give up even the hair on your head, basically. So the tribute that the Asiatics, see, this is how, if you really go into the logic of this, first he's not talking about the Cushite or the Asiatic when he's talking about each man owns his portion of this part of Egypt in their translation. I will argue that he's talking about the state of the land. Just 1 second, I gotta take this for a second. All right, yeah. So, yeah, they were taxing hard. I apologize for that pause. But when we come down further, he reads, I will meet him for a fight. They just put for a fight in there. It says, I will meet with him. And after they have pulled out their tongues and after they have taken a deep breath, they said with one voice, For us, the best of their fields is plowed. Our cattle graze in the delta swamp. So let's go, slow down. Now he's saying, check this out. We gonna go meet up with them. Think about this. He was just talking about how every man in Kemet got their own land. They shared a part of the land with him. He like, what's up with the power? But the connotation given by the scholars is that he's talking about sharing the land with these other pharaohs. That could be true, and it is a lot of weight in that instance. I'm asking us to look at it as he was talking about how his community was ran at that point in time. Because we'll see something he says here. It says, for us, the best of their fields is plowed. Our cattle graze in the delta swamps. Now read this. He holds the land of the Asians. We hold Egypt. Now, that don't make sense either. Y'all remember the first dude said he lived right here and he said he's going to go down to Egypt. And we said we can't make sense out of that because he already in Egypt. What he said was he's going to go down to Kemet. We can make sense out of that because at this point in time, Kemet wasn't all of Egypt. We can also use that to falsify that Kemet mean anything about black silk because he's using it as a destination location. Black silk is all over. Everything you see green right here is black silk, basically. Right? And so, if we look at this attestation, Kamose says he holds the land of the Asians. We hold Egypt. Again, if you didn't know about these texts and if you just ran their translations, what would you take from that? What would you think the land of the Asians was? If the dude he was fighting with held the land of the Asians, do you think he held China? If the dude he was fighting with held the land of the Asians, do you think he held the Canaanite area? Yeah, it says Aamu. It says Aamu. He holds the land of the Aamu. So look, he holds the land of the Asians. Let me show y'all where that's at. And then you're going to see how could he say that and then say we hold Egypt. Here go to Avaris, the capital right here. That's the capital. That's the capital of Avaris. That they translate as the land of the Asians. Some say we're going to try to work on that Amu right there, like my brother Asar M. Koff said. The land of the foreigners, however you want to say it. But what does the text say? He holds the land of the Asiatics or the Aamu, and we hold Kemet. So if you translate that as Egypt, that Kemet, then you got to kick dude up out of Avaris. To where's the land of the Aamu? Would it have to be over here? That wasn't the case. It was right here. Where was Kamose at? In the Theban district. So now we got two texts that attest to Kemet not being all of Egypt. And it being some location further south. This one it's hard to get around. Let me see if I can find A-N-D-O Kendall, what was her name? Hope I said it right. Yep. She gonna stay in one of these texts.
Answer some questions at the end here.
Let me see. First stela Kamose, she going in on it right here. Look, right here. Look how quick I found that. Now watch her say this.
Like pro-Theban, the Hyksos are the bad guys, bias. They suggest new understandings of the political relationship between Thebes and Avaris, the two capitals. So this portion here clearly suggests that the Thebans enjoyed beneficial trade and grazing agreements with the Delta. We see that Delta-grown agricultural products are being sent regularly to Thebes, and that Theban cattle can be driven up to the Delta to make use of that prime grazing land up there. And in fact, really interestingly, there's no mention of payment for any of these benefits. And the way this line is phrased makes it seem like these are free perks, as it were. So possibly a savvy political move made by the Hyksos, meant to ensure that the Thebans are satisfied with the status quo and less likely to attack, or possibly meant to encourage a reciprocal diplomatic gift, even more possibly, of southern gold, the one item the Hyksos didn't seem to have direct access to. In fact, the King's Council here tries to placate Kamose by saying, we still have Egypt. He has the land of the Asiatics. Amazingly, dismissing the northern half of the country as a foreign land. They're like, let it go. We still have Egypt.
Now you heard what she just said. You can get my book also. I'll share the link. There is a link where you can get a signed copy. It costs a little bit more. The cheapest version is on Amazon, but you can get a signed copy off my Bandcamp. Thanks for asking. Y'all heard her say it in her own analogy. She said he dismissed the upper part of Egypt. I said, no, that's what you say. He said that wasn't even Kemet. He didn't say I'm dismissing it. He didn't say I'm dismissing it. He said they hold the land of the Asiatics, we hold Egypt. And I need to say that better. He holds the land of the Asiatics, we hold the black land. I'll take that back a little bit.
Seem to have direct access to. In fact, the King's Council here tries to placate Kamose by saying, we still have Egypt. He has the land of the Asiatics. Amazingly, dismissing the northern half of the country as a foreign land. They're like, let it go. We still have Egypt. And these are the lines which are the first hint that Kamose alone is the aggressor in the war. The Hyksos weren't aggressors. The rest of the Egyptians didn't seem to care terribly. It was Kamose alone. And this deep detail can be detected again and again in these texts if they're read without that preconceived understanding of the Hyksos as the bad guys.
All right. I want to go back.
So a great detail to pursue in a
I wanted to go back, but I seen this. I want to see what she's talking about.
Deconstructive analysis is that of titles, which sounds very boring, I realize, but hopefully we'll find it a little more interesting in a second. So the second stela of Kamose opens with a famous scene of Kamose in mid-rant about the political situation. He's shouting that the Hyksos king Apepi is being miserly in calling himself a Heka, or a ruler, while calling Kamose a wer, or a chief. Regardless of the translation difficulties of this line, I've put up, 4 different versions, and there are many more possibilities. The implication of the overall phrase is clear. The Theban author of the text understood that Apepi considers himself to be Kamos's superior in political station. The final 2 translations even suggest that Apepi was
Danielle Candelora is her name.
the more powerful ruler.
And she's a scholar on the Hyksos. Her dissertation is on the Hyksos.
So much so that he had some role in raising Kamos to his current position. In either case, for me, this line raises the question as to why the author of this text would have recorded this information on his king's victory monument on public display in their most sacred temple, Karnak. This line could have easily been written something like, Apepi will pay for his vile boasts.
But she's talking about something else, though. But she broke it down. So right now we could say, okay, Kemet didn't mean what they tell us Kemet meant. If you think Kemet meant Egypt in this, then you lose the context of what he's saying. Kemet meant some place that they held, and he said they had the heartland as far as Kusai. So where's Kusai? I'm gonna have to Google it. Wait a minute, I forgot how they let me think. I can't pull it up in my head how they spelled it. Kusae. Let me Cusae. Kusai. I have to think about that for a minute. Now it says, let me see. Yeah, Kusai ain't that far up. Well, what nome is it? Oh, that's about Mir, okay. Kissy is the ancient, all right. It don't say what nome it is, though. Oh, 14th nome. So if I go to the 14th nome. So they said the heartland with us as far as up to here. So that was down here. And the next part of the text said the heartland is with us as far as up to Kusai. So let's say he had from there to there. And he said they got the land of the Asiatics. We got Kemet. Dang. That's easy to know. And it's crazy. Hold on, man. We're gonna go old school because I'm gonna see if anybody wanna hit the link. I ain't had the link in about 20 years. I don't feel like talking all the way, but I could keep the stream going. Mic check. I guess, let me see. It should be coming from, select the camera. Oh, it can't do that. Forget the camera. I'll use this other camera for that. Or forget it, man. Participate. Don't and participate. Don't hate, participate. Let me see. I can share the link real quick. Right there. And I pin the message. Somebody want to build, go on and hit the link. It's good. I feel like taking a break. I should get some water, but I'm going to wait till somebody hit the link. All right, man, all that talking for 5 hours, man. I'm gonna go on Sonata later. I need to hold, save some chill time. I saw MK in the building. Let's see if you can hear me. What's up, Asar?
All I want to do is zoom. We in the room.
What's up?
Man, I'm looking at this. So I'm looking at what you're breaking down and putting down. What do we know where Second Ra attacked the Asiatics at?
Nah, I don't. I don't.
Because that was who preceded. Hold on, let me pull up this.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. He was before Amos and Kamose. And I think Nefertari even has some Amos Nefertari had something to do with getting them juice for that fight.
Let me here it is. Let me pull up this booklet real quick. Let's if you don't mind me sharing my screen. Let's look inside this book real quick. Pull it up real quick. Here goes one, but here goes the academia. Join, I just pull these two up. That's Second Ra right there. He got hit in the head.
Yeah,
but Second Ra, tail, skull from his coffin found in Deir el Bahari. The number indicates the location of the wounds. Because this is their daddy. He looked Ethiopian as ever.
Good afternoon.
Peace.
Yeah, that's their dad. That's who was fighting with them first. We need to see where he attacked them at, because then that'll answer our main question. Where was their locality? Because they obviously encroached.
I think they were all thieving. I could be mistaken though.
Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Middle Bronze Age material cause attributed to the Asiatics and the subjects of the 15th dynasty died in conflict with the Hyksos. Forces' paper analyzed the cultural historical background behind the reasoning. So let me unshare for a minute. Let me dig through this thing real quick. Unless you we can dig through it. Unless you pull something up. Mummified remains. Grafton, Elliott, and Professor. Give us a location, y'all. Giving us how it got Hyksos, Middleborough. Okay. Eastern Delta of Lower Egypt. Dynasties 14 and 15 in Tel El Daba. They say Kusay, Middle Egypt, 16, 17.
What you looking for exactly?
The location where they came from initially, like to see if he fought with them before they came into Lower Egypt. Because they obviously took over. There it is right there. That's what we was just see where they hailed from. From Hawara. Oh, that's Hawara's workshop. Man, I'll look and see. And see if I can find some goodies. Tel El Daba, Eastern Delta, and Lower Egypt were also inhabited by local Egyptians, as well as those of foreign origin who adopted Egyptian names. It is impossible to differentiate between these groups solely on the basis of names. For the most recent date on this issues with numerous blah, 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 blah. Okay. Because you were trying to see where the Asiatics originated from, right?
I was just looking at how all these texts made it seem as if Kemet was not all of Egypt.
Oh, yeah, we definitely, yeah. Let me be quiet then. That's clear, yeah.
What's up, Smash? Long time, boy.
What's up with you?
Yeah, man. I was going through some text here. I working on my page. I was trying to get some of these guys in the back chat organized to see if we could do some stream together to promote our pages, but it didn't work out so far.
Well, hit us up, Jose, and we could get at it.
You heard me just now, Smash? Or I was it?
Yeah, I can
What?
hear you.
Sorry, did you respond to me just now? What you
Yeah,
said?
I said hit us up, Jose, so we could get at
Well, consider yourself hit up. Go in the back chat and let's talk about it.
it.
Because I know you're in there, right? So I'm hitting you up. I want to ask Smash, but Smash too busy, so he ain't gonna be able to do it now. So Asar, go in the back chat and we'll talk about it, right?
Okay, where's the back chat at? Where's the
Oh, you're not in the Magi group?
Oh, you talking about the okay, yeah.
So
In the Discord, I got you.
so hit me you see, when you're all like me, you had to break it down.
That's right.
Hit me in the
It's
Discord
not
and
easy.
we'll see what we could do.
The mind ain't the same anymore.
Yeah, man.
Patah said the breathing hurts, the
Yeah,
thinking
all
hurts.
that, right? Yeah, everything, right? You said everything hurts.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that. If you guys are interested, you could peep in on the page. I know you know the page. I don't want to shamelessly promote it, but I want to ask Smash. I want to ask you a question.
What's up?
2 questions. If I want to use your footage on my page, is that cool?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Can I shamelessly promote my page on your page, or should I not do that?
Oh, yeah.
All right. It's I'm gonna put it in the chat now. Solomonic TV, right? So people could go and check it out. I did some interesting. I did the most recent one was Reggie's paper. So you can go and check that out when you get a chance.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Right. And maybe you could add on to it and help me out a little bit. Because my presentation is a little dry. So maybe you could put some sauce on it for me. Right?
Well, how I'm gonna do that?
Say it again?
How I'm gonna do that?
Because you're Smash Rockwell and you got the sauce.
Maybe I could just give you some commentary.
Yeah, but listen, whatever you could do, appreciate it. If you get an opportunity and you just want to put it up, I would appreciate that and do a commentary on it. I'd appreciate that.
So
That would help out.
It's all good.
And I did 7 videos on Aunt Mira's grammar book. It seemed like people like those the most. So I reached probably up to page 100 in the book. Just reading the book.
Did you say you was gonna share your page with the people?
Yeah, it's
Okay, what's the name of it for the people who can't look at the chat?
Solomonic TV, SOLOMONIC TV, and you will see a picture of King Tutankhamun on the as the thumbnail.
Who is that?
Say it again?
Who is Tutankhamun?
King Tut?
All right. Everybody don't know what you're talking about.
Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, we can say it however we want to say it. But what words did you say?
I said King Tutankhamun.
Yeah.
Or Neb Keperura.
Yeah.
What does Neb Keperura mean, by the way?
What you think it means?
Neb is all everything happening before Ra. That's just a guess.
I don't think Neb is all if it's in the first position. Hold on. Hello?
I could be wrong. I'm just guessing.
Lord. Lord of Creation's Ra.
Is that what it means?
Probably something like that.
Oh, wow. I don't feel bad because you get some too, so I don't feel so bad.
You got Kapara, which is the creation portion. You got Neb, which is Lord or all. So all creations are Ra or something like that. You could even throw, but I don't know.
Ra means before Ra.
Yeah, Neb is usually Lord at the beginning when it's not a sentence and it's a surname.
But Nebuchadnezzar is the Sarah name, right?
Yeah, it's a surname.
All right. So
It's like
so
a pronoun because it's a
when
name.
they say Sarah, Sarah is a throne name.
Yeah, son of Ra, Sa, and then Ra.
And then when they give the other one, that would be more his birth name.
Yeah. Well, he's unless he's got like the five, then you got to figure which of the five they're talking about.
Well, it was in, but well, it was. I read something that said his original name wasn't even Tutankhamun. It was actually, it was actually, what was it?
Different.
He was named after. Yes.
Yeah, because it's Amenhotep the third is his granddaddy. Queen T is his grandmama. Akhenaten is his dad, supposedly.
Oh no, no, no. Sorry. His yeah. They said his name was originally Tutankhamun.
Like after the Aten or something like that.
Yeah, and then they said his father changed his name from Amenhotep the fourth to Akhenaten
Right.
because apparently that was the deity that the whole family was into.
He was hinting that it could go in that direction. And then that's when Akhenaten decided to just switch everything to the Atenism.
But that's his mother was Nefertiti, right?
Queen T is up.
No, no, no. King Tutankhamun.
Okay, yeah, right. So I'm trying to see where you're going. You was talking about Akhenaten, and you so yeah,
I just had a brain fart. I wasn't really going nowhere with that.
Hello?
also good. Um,
I wasn't really going nowhere. I was just making conversation.
you all good. Don't be over apologizing. We kicking it.
What's Smash for?
Think he
What's Smash
stepped up.
for? All right.
He had that phone call, but I was thinking he was trying to place where the Hyksos were coming in from initially, but he was just showing that the whole town wasn't called Kemet, which
Yeah.
is the case. The only time I think we find that the town is called Kemet as a whole is
Hold
when the 25th dynasty takes
on.
place. Because then you have a Nahesi ruler on the throne, and he rules as far as all the northern Kemet, and he calls it Kemet.
Oh, we just got a member who joined as a chief contributor. Shout out to Kadar. Thanks for the support on this channel. Much
Hey,
appreciated. But and shout out to everyone who maintained their memberships. You know, like we're smash at, cause we be having to do life, man. But I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to thank the brother for joining.
that's right.
Never mind. I had some interesting topics I wanted to do, but I was advised by some of the brothers in the back chat I probably shouldn't touch those topics because it's language topics and I'm not very familiar with the language.
So step out and get on the limb and hit somebody up when you do it. That's the stuff. That's the bravery we like to see. I don't like the
I did that in the Discord.
claws.
I did
Yeah.
that in the Discord, and it basically said, since you're not really literate in the language, you probably shouldn't do that. But my idea was to go over the epithets of the Nisubiti.
You should do it.
And strange enough, I happened to find a random book online called The Names and Titles of the Middle Kingdom. And it's a lot. You think I should do it though, Asar?
Yeah.
Asar, but you're gonna make me get in trouble, you know.
Nah, you good. I got your back. We good.
You know, brother, brother, in
You
the
make a mistake, you make a mistake. You can just go back like, here I'm wrong, but this
yeah,
is just part of me studying.
brothers,
Yeah,
my brothers in the Discord are very supportive, but they keep it brutally honest too. So I be wanting to jump out the window, they be like, nah. You might not want to jump fully out the window right now. You might want to take a breath, relax, keep it simple. And I'm gonna follow my big brother's advice.
that's right. Keep it simple, but don't be scared neither. You know what I'm saying? You'll never get her phone number if you keep looking at her from a distance.
Sir, I'm very married for 20 years. I don't know what it is you're talking about. Only have right? You trying to get me in trouble.
You got to be macadocious sometimes. You got to go holler.
No. I saw that's you. You look like you used to do that long ago. I'm too old for that. I can't fight and I can't run. You got you got you got plenty hands. But I wanted to do that. I'm reading Reggie's. I read the first. I did a video on Reggie's paper. One video so far. So I'm gonna do that again. I'm gonna keep doing that. I did a Chat GPT video. I did some Arc Mirror videos. So when we talking about that, we can see what you and I are gonna do.
Okay.
Feel like I feel since I have you and you know the language, I'm probably gonna do the epitaph with you. We probably might go over that.
Let's do it.
Because I've only done 3 actual live videos. Most of them I just pre-recorded and put it up. Because I'm very scared to go live.
Go live. You want us to, you will, I'll go over there with you when you do it.
Right. But you see now when I try to do it,
Why are you scared to go live?
because to be honest, Smash, I try to be the nice guy. I don't want to put too much out there at this point for people to jump on something that I'm saying because I might not be able to defend myself. If you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not like you guys. I'm not starting off in everything. So I don't want to say controversial and then they jump on me now and I can't defend myself.
Don't matter. I mean, you ain't got to let everybody on your show immediately either. But I'll
No,
give you a for instance. Let me see if I could find it.
I just don't want to be the guy that now all of a sudden everybody looking at me now. And they're making 5 and 10 videos on me.
So they're going to do that anyway.
Yeah, but I'm not for that. I don't have nothing to say to that.
Yeah, you don't got no control over that.
Yeah, you just enjoy the moment. You know what I'm saying?
Nah, I want to make my page mean something. I don't want to just be talking crazy. So I'm trying to do something. I don't know what I want to do because I'm all over the place right now.
All the stuff Trump doing with these China tariffs is sickening me, man. It's just disgusting.
This clown done crashed the stock market, y'all.
I mean, he got to turn that off in the next 90 days. That talking about 100% tariffs. That just means we got to pay 100%, not them. Damn.
He's one of the dumbest acting dudes I know right now. It just makes no sense. Makes no sense. You don't even want to. Number one, you're not gonna. He act like he trying to unite all of North America. Canada, you're gonna become the 51st state, and then you over here trying to tax Mexico. Stupid. That's our main food source in Mexico, and we get a whole lot of we get a lot of things from Canada. Why would you tariff them? That's the stupidest thing ever. If anything, so now that Mexico's doing business with China, partially over the Panama Canal and some other things, what if they just decide, hey, China, you want to connect? We're tired of the US. What if they pull a Amos and Kamose situation with the United States because of Donald Trump?
Mm-hmm.
What if they say what the Asiatic said? Hey, I have Amos's men busy up here. Meet me in the middle, Mexico, and we can smash the United States up and get rid of them. What you gonna do?
Peace, everybody. Well. Look who's back.
Pan-African in the building.
What's up, Smash? What's up, Joey? What's up, Saw?
What's up?
LC?
What's up with it?
Oh, nothing much. Just tapping in, man. I was laid up. I was like, damn, he didn't open up the Zoom finally. I had to pop up. You know, it's early over here. Well, it's even earlier. You probably, what is it, 8 o'clock or something where you
It's
at?
like 9:30, 9:41.
You done pulled the early bird on us. But yeah, what's going down?
We're trying to encourage Jose to get in the mix and do his show. And Smash is showing that Kemet was never the whole of Egypt.
It didn't start out
Egypt.
as that.
Right.
It didn't even start as a place name, as a matter of fact.
If someone wanted to go in on the difference between the black land and the red land, and they think that mean land, like that's like they never addressed the black land and the red land. Come on, man, we talk about that all the time.
I don't know what they talking about. Go watch some old videos.
Yeah, we said
Go to the archives immediately.
yeah. We told them that Plutarch made that up.
Well, we're talking about all of the primary attestations we find with the black land in juxtaposition to the red land, and then they say that means that's the reason why black land mean land, because it's in juxtaposition to red land.
That don't even make sense. Yeah,
But that doesn't have anything to do with. That's confusing me. Because matter of fact, I had a fight with ChatGPT about that, and ChatGPT tried to tell me initially that because they see Kemet and the black soil together, that it means the same thing. Then eventually I got it to say there is no primary attestation for that particular meaning.
Oh, that's the new other research. And because I can't think in my head no text where they even do the same thing with the red land.
Right.
Find a text where they say something about the red land, then they mention the rocks or the dirt.
Right.
I'm just saying, let's do it. We could do it right now. We can look at red land and see if they ever say red land, this dirt, this soil. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
What they didn't even say, but they didn't even really say the first part. What they're trying to say, what ChatGPT was trying to tell me was, because you see the term Kem or Kemet, and then the next line has something to do with black soil, they mean the same thing. But when I pressed it, it said, no, that's not true.
They say, but I mean, they say since we ain't got them sources, now we gonna lean on this black land, red land thing.
I mean, if we go to attestation, what is Semitawi?
I guess.
But I don't know if, yeah, that's a good question, because I don't know if that's upper or lower or the black and the red.
Right.
So I always thought it was upper and lower.
Right. And if we start to dig into, well, let's look at in that text you got up, what is it called Upper Kemet? Or what is it called Upper Egypt?
I'm just looking at this term, and I want to see why I can't find a rendition of it as red land in the dictionary.
This should be Deseret Ta, right?
No, they're not gonna put no ta.
But ain't that how you say lane?
Yeah.
We know
say
that.
like
That's
Deseret.
what I'm saying. But they got the Kasat. They got the Kasat glyph. Let's find the one. Here it is. So, but look, they don't define it. They say desert, foreign country. I'm just saying this. I want to see where it say red land. Now I could go. If we click this,
Yeah, they definitely didn't add tie to it, but they should have.
If we
there
click,
were a land,
it don't got no tie on it.
Yeah, that's a mountain or foreign land determined.
if we click this right here, some of the translations is going to say red land. Watch this. It's
You
already
know what's funny
translated.
though that you got that up? If Deshret is the foreign country and that's where the Asiatics are, Kemet must mean black community because the red land is is where the foreigners is at.
Well, we're going to talk about that because there's some stuff to that. Now, here we go. They translated as red lands right here. But when we was in the definition, they said it meant desert lands. But here's one of the first attestations with Simro said, where we got Kemet opposite Jesheret. Y'all see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they made it plural.
Well, it ain't
So
really,
there's several lands that make up the red land. There's several localities that make up the black land. So Kemet is not just one spot. It was like some city states together that made up the black land. Just like Deshret is like more than one city that makes up the red land.
Yeah, that ain't written right though to me, but I don't know.
It ain't written right, but you're right. You're right, but still.
It
Notice
depends
how
on period. I don't know if this some type of period where they doing this at up, but that don't look right.
well, notice they've got the pets. So you got foreign land for whatever's red. Kemet has the locality of the community. So you know what's family and what's foreign. And this is the uniting of the black community and the foreign lands that'll be under their rule.
Yeah, 12th dynasty.
That's the thing that people ain't really looking at. If this red land is under a depet and it's foreign, then that means they're outsiders. Libya and all that other stuff, you're coming for when we unite with you, you're the foreign side. Upper Egypt to over there by Tasseti, all this here, these localities, that's the Egyptian, that's that X-Men symbol belt. That's that unified locality.
So let's look at this first. I already know it's not going to say nothing about no dirt or no soil, and we only going to get that from what they say. But let's go into the attestation of Simro Set to see if I seen one from the 5th dynasty, so I don't know why this TLA is starting here. Maybe I need to look it up a different way. But it simply says, leader of the black lands and the red lands, one who gives orders to Upper Egypt and controls the herd list of Lower Egypt. All right, let me see. So we got questions to ask there too. Because is he talking about the same places or other places? When he say the black, all right, who pacifies the Asiatics from their accounts of their actions, the potent on the 2 banks. Then it's going to say the leader of the black land and the red land. So now when you say the potent on the 2 banks is what they would just call Egypt. That was the name of Egypt because you got the bank of the river on the left and you got the bank of the river on the right. And so then if we talk about it, some would say, okay, that is talking about a bank of a river, right? But that Ndebwe or whatever was just a name for Egypt. If we look it up, it'll say the 2 banks, literally Egypt. Watch this, the 2 banks. If I click this, it's going to say i.e. Egypt. Look. See how I say Egypt?
Yep.
So it's a metaphor, a reference for Egypt. They're not talking about the dirt on the banks or nothing. You see what I mean? That was like, it's like saying, I don't know how to say it.
No, because they saying Simatawi, talking about the 2 lands, and they still haven't designated that what the 2 lands are, per se.
But think about, Simatawi. I think that's upper or lower, but I don't have anything to like prove that. So the leader of the black lands is what they put, and the leader of the red lands. The one who gives order to Upper Egypt and controls the whole herless, the Lower Egypt. Into whose light everyone walks, captain of the Reketi people. All right. And so that's how that's mentioned in one of the first attestations of black land, red land. Do that prove that in the black land they talking about the silt right here? And in the red land they talking about desert sand?
Nope.
I don't think so.
They gave a description of what it means to be the ruler of that locality, and it didn't say nothing about no black silk.
So I wanna keep going in on this one though.
But don't they say that Set also was considered to be a foreign deity?
So I'm gonna go towards the end. I'm gonna click number 4 and see what we get to answer your question. I click 4, and this is the later Ptolemaic use, which passes through the black and the red lands. This is Ptolemaic again. The good God who chosen by Ra to be the ruler of Kemet and the desert. So Kemet and Gesseret, right? The desert dwellers Gesseret to you, and his servants as far as the darkness extends. I'm glad we found Gesseret to you right here. He presents you to Kemet with all that is in it, the deserts with his servants. She comes from the desert. I will go into the desert. So they're translating all of these red lands as the desert in Ptolemaic times. But there's a clear answer for that, which is Plutarch's work. And so that's why people get too confused. But let me see if I can pull that up.
But when you read it, it tells you that at that time, Plutarch couldn't read Medu Neter. He was just going by.
But his stuff ain't based on reading Medu Neter. We're not even. Yeah, it's not. His attestation ain't based on reading Medu Neter.
Yeah, but he also said in the beginning of the paragraph that the Kemetic people didn't say everything outside of their house. They didn't talk everything in the street, so he was going by what little he heard. And the first quote before he started talking about black and red was he said they call the place Kemet after the pupil of the eye. And then he started going off on something totally different. He quoted what they said, and then he proceeded to explain on his own accord because they never explained to him what they meant. Apparently, at that time.
Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. But I didn't think that it's always addressed as a secondary source. And I don't think he said he read the Medu Neter and got these what he claims.
No.
He's just saying tradition that he heard when he was in Kemet.
Yes. Well, he said that he heard them address the place as Kemet, as the pupil of the eye, which is Kemet. And then he proceeded to explain why they did it. He didn't say that they said that.
So I want to click this, even though this ain't the one I'm looking for. This is where we get a lot of the claims that Osiris was the agriculturalist who taught the Egyptians, who taught them agriculture. Well, let me see. One of the first acts related of Osiris in his reign was to deliver the Egyptians from their destitute and brutish manner of living. This he did by showing them the fruits of cultivation, by giving them laws and teaching them the honor of the gods. Now, when he's saying Osiris did this, he's talking about an Ethiopian dude named Osiris who came down as a straight colonizer. But I want to show all of this. If I can find it. Well, yeah, y'all can just build. I'm just what's up with what's up with Valduel? What's up? Sorry for butchering your name.
But I realized when you read this, Plutarch was mostly just babbling. He didn't know most of what he was talking about.
That's not true. I don't even think you read it from you saying that.
You know what?
Yeah, I could tell you didn't read it, so stop fronting.
I didn't fully read it.
Yeah, because you just claimed it for babbling, and he said a lot of shit you know he wasn't babbling if you read it.
Damn.
Okay.
Smash. But I feel you, man, because I be feeling the same way about genetics. But anyway, go ahead.
All right.
That shit is crazy.
Read it. I picked up a lot of Bible. Maybe I should go back and read it fully.
All right, let me click this. This is one for the record. Even though he gonna say what he say, I just want y'all to peep game. He say Horus was white. I don't know where he got that from, but let's read what he say here. The Egyptians, in fact, have a tradition that Hermes had thin arms and big elbows. That Typhoon, y'all know who Typhoon is, right? That's Set. Was red in complexion. Horus was white and Osiris dark. All right. And so he's just saying what he's saying. But what we could take from that, one, is Osiris is dark. That we could qualify that with other sources. And Typhoon is red. We can't qualify Horus as white because I can pull up a text right now that say Horus is black. So again, if I want to give you credit to what you said, you can say, well, that's the Babel I was talking about, Joey. Then I would say, yeah. But then you have to see where he got things right and then say, this ain't all the way Babel. He just threw in this Horus white thing.
I agree with you, Smash, that it's not all Bible, but we have to acknowledge that some parts he's filling in because they didn't tell him everything.
Yeah, I'm not against you on that, but you know he say some stuff that you say, how could he know that, basically?
Yeah, the part where he's breaking down the glyphs was very interesting because he confirmed that part was true. But he was talking about the old man meaning death, the young man meaning birth, and then he said something about a hawk being God.
When we got him saying Osiris is dark and Seth is red, and we thinking about the black and the red land, and we're gonna break that down because we're gonna get more from his work about that in a minute. If I can find it.
Peace to everybody on the panel.
What's up?
It's your brother Patah.
What up, Patah?
Peace, Patah. Now let me read this one real quick. This is his understanding in his time period. Let this then be stated incidentally as a matter of record that is common knowledge. But the wiser of the priests called not only the Nile Osiris and the sea Typhoon, but they simply give the name of Osiris to the whole source and faculty creative of moisture. Let's slow down real quick. They don't just call the Nile Osiris, but they simply give the name Osiris to the whole source and faculty creative of moisture, believing this to be the cause of generation and the substance of life producing seed. So what did they think produced life? Moisture. They said, and they gave that to us out, but let's keep going. In the name of Typhoon, they give to that is all dry, fiery, and arid. in general, the antagonist of moisture. So remember, Osiris is black and Typhoon is red. Osiris, his darkness is, as we'll read on in the next sentence, it says clearly, first of all, this is the most shocking sentence that anyone should read from a man of Plutarch's color. Because Plutarch said, therefore, because they believed that he was personally of a reddish, sallow color, who is that they're talking about? Typhoon. Therefore, because they believe, Typhoon is set, sutek. The Greek way to say it is Typhoon. So therefore, because they believe that he was personally of a reddish, sallow color. If you look up sallow, it means like yellow. You know, like reddish yellow, like the color of Plutarch. He said, they are not eager to meet men of such complexion. Now, am I putting the word complexion in there?
No, you just read it.
So they simply talking about lightweight racism on the under. That they was dark and they didn't like meeting people of a reddish, sallow color. Nor do they like to associate with them. Now, he's talking about Typhoon and his red skin color, and they give that to all that is dry, fiery, and arid. Well, what is dry, fiery, and arid in the landscape of ancient Egypt?
Yes.
The desert, which gets the same color attributed to who? Set, Sutek, or Typhoon. Red. But by way of this understanding, and not necessarily by way of the understanding, it's just happened to be, I don't say it happened to be that, it's further than happened to be that. This land actually is red. I never got my water, I'll be back.
You know what's funny though? Lightweight, like you were saying, the racism, that red hillbilly, red neck, that's crazy when it comes to that red, that shred desert stuff up in the hills.
Yeah, but he was drawing his own conclusion. He didn't hear anybody say that. So he was trying to explain it for himself. That wasn't a quote from the Kemetic people. He also,
where he get it from? He said, therefore, because they believe that he was personally. So wait a minute, stop right there. That he was personally, are they talking about Plutarch? They talking about his complexion? That's what they talking about.
Who was that? You talking about the Egyptians, right?
Yeah, they talking about when they seen him reddish, sallow color. They told him that they're not eager to meet men of such complexion, nor do they like associating with them. Now, who are they? When Smash get back, maybe he can tell us who they talking about. But I'm thinking maybe they talking to him, which is Plutarch, talking about what he looked like. But maybe they might be talking about some other people from earlier on. But I know, see, for me, Asar and Set, that's fiction. So he can't be talking about they told him this, because they ain't nothing but gods. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, he's talking about some humans.
So let's go back up and we can see how he referred to stuff. Listen to what he says. Let this then be stated incidentally as a matter of record that is common knowledge. So what he was talking about prior to that, he's like, everybody know this, basically, in their area.
Right.
Because this report or this book wasn't necessarily written for us. It survived into our times, but he was reporting back to other people who had not been to Egypt, letting them know what's up with this Isis on Osiris stuff, because the cult of Isis was spreading during his time period. Right? So he went there supposedly and giving his reports back to them. So he like, this is a matter of common knowledge. But then what he started reciting after that, he says, but the wiser of the priests. So basically, this is the not so common knowledge. If I could just, put his thing in the captions or whatever. But the wiser of the priests call not only the Nile Osiris and the sea Typhoon, but they simply give the name Osiris to the whole source and faculty creative of moisture, believe this to be the cause and generation and the substance of life producing seed. We got to remember that they think moisture is the cause of life producing seed, because Egyptologists is going to tell us they thought it was this magical dirt, this silt or this soil. You see what I'm saying? And the name of Typhoon they give to all that is dry, fiery, and arid, in general, the antagonist of moisture. Therefore, because they believe that he was personally of a reddish, sallow color, they are not eager to meet men of such complexion, nor do they like to associate with them. Now look, Osiris, on the other hand, according to the legendary tradition, was dark. Because water darkens everything, earth and clothes and clouds, when it comes into contact with them. So they thinking right now that Osiris, and they put dark there with an H next to it. I bet you it's the same word they use for black down here when they say the hair is black, right? But they're under Plutarch's understanding, Osiris was dark because water darkens everything. Not because of the silt.
Mud.
Yeah.
Right.
But he's going to say when this water comes into contact with the Egyptian mud, it makes some of the darkest mud out there. But never going to say they thought that was anything special. Like, let's look. Excuse me. In young people, the presence of moisture renders their hair black, while grayness and light paleness, as it were, is induced by, he's going to say dryness. Induced by dryness in those who are past their prime. Also, the springtime this is all pseudo. Also, the springtime is vigorous, prolific, and agreeable, but the autumn, since it lacks moisture, is inimical to the plants and unhealthy for living creatures. The bull at Heliopolis, which they call Manuvus or whatever, and which is sacred to Osiris, some hold to be the sire Apis, is black and has honor second only to the Apis. Egypt, moreover, which has the blackest of soils, they call by the same name as the black portion of the eye, Kemet, and compare it to the heart. So now the reference to that soil there, and he says they call it by the same name as the portion of the eye, the black portion of the eye. The fact that he uses a name, Egypt, moreover, which has the blackest soil, they call by the same name as the black portion of the eye, that's interesting to me. Because it let me know that, to his understanding, they call it the black portion of the eye, Kemet, and don't give no other reference to nothing else. He say it got the blackest soil, but he didn't say it was named after the blackest soil. He say it's named after the black portion of the eye, Kemet.
Right.
But
Because I believe wasn't Plutarch was he Greek?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so.
And I believe the word Kemet in the Greek language meant had something to do with the eye, or had the pupil, meant pupil or something like that.
Well, I don't know about that. I thought
I would
you might be right. I don't know.
I would assume that that's probably a word that they made up in Kemet to describe the word Kemet. And the reason I would say that is because before that they were using a different word, which was melanas. So they probably made up that word for Kemet. That's probably the Greek word for Kemet. I could be wrong.
So what if he passing through the black land and the red land, and in the metaphorical sense of it, is passing through the land of Horus and Set, or Osiris and Set? I can show the text that say that. What if that was the case? Let me see if I can find it. Y'all there?
Yeah.
I was distracted. What was the last thing you said? What was the case?
What if we could find a text that shows the black land is because of Horus and the red land is because of Set?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, isn't that in the what's it called? Not the book of humans of creation or something like that.
I
Where it's
thought it
talking
was
about the
in the
people.
contingency of Horus and Set, but I could be wrong. Oh, here you go, right here. Bow, shit just be popping on the screen. Who want to read that on the screen?
Awaken in peace, primeval one.
Wait. What are you reading? You have given commanded thee.
Okay, sorry. You have given commands there about the strides / position of men, the plans of the gods, the counsel of the king in his palace, the writing which thought created on order of the Lord Atum in giving Egypt to Horus and the desert to Seth.
Hold on. See, they say Egypt, but he say Kemet. So they gave Kemet to Horus and Jeshurun to Seth, where their lands were divided, disliking rivalry. So now we got Kemet and Jeshurun. They saying it's about Horus and Seth, bruh.
So that's where they got it from.
What I'm just saying, how does this?
No, he just, just laying it out there, Joey, like, this is one of the things that you could think about based on what we just read in this text.
Exactly.
This could be one of the reasons why they're doing that, because he laid the foundation with Osiris being dark and what was his name from the other Greek you said? I forget how to. Yeah, whatever his name is in Greek, he was associated with red, which is just Set and Horus. I mean, Set and Osiris. So that's this right here is just putting it into syntax and just validating what he said. Right?
Trying to.
Right. Yeah, but I get it, Smash. Yeah, that's the interesting thought, and with primary to be able to back that thought up.
Yeah, but we already understand that he was going in with limited knowledge. So we wouldn't expect him to know.
Who was he? This isn't Plutarch anymore.
No. When we're going back to Plutarch was going in with limited knowledge.
Yeah, but this ain't Plutarch. We reading a whole nother attestation from the TLA.
No. My bad. This is different. That's definitely different.
Yeah, this is from the TLA. Ancient Egyptian text from about the 4th century, 1st to 4th century BC, which is saying from their perspective, in the end of this story, the black, and you want to call this black land here, it was given to Horus, and we know Horus is the black, and the Sutek is the red, and Jeshurun was given to him. So I'm asking how much of their understanding of the black and the red, even when Plutarch said they didn't like to associate with red people because of this, it got more to do with people than the dirt, it seemed like.
So yeah, but to a certain extent, I guess, right?
Well, he didn't say they don't like to go into the red dirt because of this. He said they don't like to associate with reddish, sallow complexion people because of this.
Right.
Yeah, but we know that's not true.
What's not true?
How you know that's not true?
Well, I'm gonna say this. If you can show me a primary text to say that this dealt with red-skinned people, then I would apologize. So
well, I don't have a primary text to say it, but I got a secondary text, and I'm asking, how do you know that the secondary text is not true?
Well, we also can look at the primary that says those individuals that were up north that came from the Amu that took over Avaris or took over the Delta or came from Libya, who are the complexion that's being described, that those in the south, which were in Kemet, had problems with those individuals that either ruled Kemet or were trying to take over. Take over Lower Egypt, or took over Lower. So to me, that's those people were lighter, reddish, complected people. So I would say that they did have a
Man, I'm gonna tell you like this. I will pull out an ancient Egyptian spell against scorpion bites, where they got two different remedies. One remedy for a black person and one remedy for a red person. So what was they thinking in their mind if they had that?
That they was different.
Yeah, exactly.
So Smiles, you're telling me there may be evidence to state that there was colorism and they didn't like red-skinned people in ancient Kemet?
Well, I'm saying that we have a secondary source that seems to claim that, and the cold part about the secondary source is he would be closer to the color that he was saying was disliked. Like, he wouldn't be like black saying that. He was almost reddish, of a reddish sallow color. And he's saying they don't like to associate with people of a reddish sallow color. Let's go back to the text so people can read it for themselves.
But even though he said that, we have to take it with a grain of salt, because I don't think that was a direct quote from any person. He might have just, I don't know. It doesn't seem that that's a direct quote.
He said it was common knowledge. Like, I don't understand what you're doing, Joe. When he started off, he says common knowledge around this joint.
Okay, but
so I don't know why would he say that.
But listen to what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
There's a part that he didn't read where it states that he says that the people of Kemet only spoke everyday cognizance in public, which means they didn't talk about everything in front of the Greeks.
Where does it say that at?
I think if you go further, it should say it in the same text, because when we read it online, it said something about that at the beginning of the passage. So if you go further, you should.
Nah, I don't say that here. You think you mixing up what Strabo said about the metal nature? Remember, Joey, it was what Strabo said, that all the people don't speak it. Only look, this talk about something different here. He talking all about Chronios, and he was basically breaking down how the Greek gods is like the Egyptian gods. Let me close this window.
I remember when Reggie went on a specific website and he read it. At the beginning of the paragraph, it said that. It said something about them not talking about, only talking about matters of everyday cognizance in public. I know I'm not tripping. But it wasn't this source. He read it off of a specific website.
Yeah, I think it was the other book, another source completely, who was saying something different. But we could read this here. You could just, how do you interpret this sentence right here, other than the way we're interpreting it? Let's have you do it.
The lament for him that is born.
No, what do you see? I just highlighted therefore. I don't know what you're looking at. Maybe you're looking at a slower screen or something.
Yeah, my screen must be slower because you highlight.
It says therefore because they believe.
Oh, you highlighted a whole lot of things I see, but I don't see nothing about therefore.
Oh, what do y'all? The rest of y'all see that?
There we go.
Say, therefore, because they believe that he was personally.
Yeah. Therefore, because they believe that he was personally of a reddish sallow color, they are not eager to meet men of such complexion, nor do they like to associate with them.
So how do you interpret that?
Well, first of all,
and it's Asiatic. No.
So first of all, let's know something here. There's no quotation marks anywhere on the sentence. So that means he is not quoting anyone according to the.
No, he's not. He's telling you his experience.
Talking, yeah.
So just real quick, let me address what Sot 12 said. No primary. No, this is a primary of his account. See, this is what y'all got to trip off. This is a primary of his account. It's not no primary of what the ancient Egyptians did, but his account of who they like to associate with, he know that from his own experience.
But I still think it's sketchy. You have to, because it appears to me he admitted in there that he didn't know everything. So we don't know if who said it, if he just made it up.
Well,
Because
you could say that really about anything that's not a scholastic rebuttal. You could say that about a mechanic who's working on your transmission.
but
Like,
he admitted.
you like, oh, he just made it up. That's not a scholastic rebuttal. You have to disqualify or falsify the statement. Do you have any evidence that they did like to associate with people of a reddish sallow color and this not to be true?
Let me say it this way, Smart. For his statement that they didn't say everything, he could be right, he could be wrong. I don't know if this is the record or if he made it up, because it seemed to me some things in here he just going on his own and just making up things that the Kemetic people would never say.
Well, to give Joey a lifeline, I let him call. They did marry into those families during trade. They traded with them. I guess they gave respect to some of their kingdoms, but other than that, when they came trying to take over kingdom, the breadbasket, the land of Kemet, they created a problem. So, and that's when the cultures, and they understood different cultures between the two, and the people looked different and they acted different.
I can go into so many primary texts and show you that calling somebody red in ancient Egyptian texts had a lightweight negative connotation.
Ooh,
all you got to do is first you could go to names, the work of Herman Ranke, and see that nobody called themselves that. Everybody called themselves black.
Okay, but hold on. So you mean the brother of Happy Kim? You think they had a negative connotation towards?
Well, it wasn't negative. It was used in comparative.
Right.
To say that one was lighter than the other.
Right.
And so you never find nobody necessarily just bearing that Jeshurun name like that. Now, let's go right to the TLA. We right in it, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to see that almost everything associated with this term, it goes with the three. Pardon me, go ahead.
I was going to say, go ahead. Sorry.
And very kind of.
It's going to go with the three things Plutarch said.
Yeah.
So I was just going to add that, they colored the cattle, some of the cattle were red. I don't think they're associated with those cattle
mean that it's bad. It's like saying that everything black would be good. They didn't say that either. They're just most connotations where they're talking about deshret. Like deshret also means holy, right?
Oh, but that's a different word. That's we don't go. That's deseret, and it's close to the holy word, but that's not the same word.
So and then the women were red. Some of the women were red.
All right, but hold on. We got to talk
yellow, and most of them dark skinned.
When you say red, when you say some of the women are red, what are you talking about?
Lighter skin, not Camilla.
Well, I'm not necessarily saying that their concept of red and black was so rigid that it translated over into how humans came out. We're talking about the black land and the red land and what could be behind that, so to speak. And so that secondary source. I definitely agree with that. Yeah, that secondary. The secondary source that we looked at has said that they attributed things that were fiery, arid, and dry to Typhoon, who was red, and things that were moist and had life-giving properties to Osiris, who was dark.
Right.
Now, if we go, it says in the search results for the use of this term Jeshurun, they're giving us 24. Mm-hmm. The first one with 13 use cases is blood, red. Okay. Now, none of us gonna say that blood is negative, but something about seeing blood is negative.
Right,
right?
because
Because
associated with death.
you shouldn't have to see
Or
if something
sickness.
happened, you got wounded, whatever.
Right.
But I'm not going to expand it. I'm just going to let you see the use casing. Now, Jeshurette, what is this? Misfortune and anger, right? So again, that's going along the line. This is coming from Sutek. We're going to learn that him and his ways of isfet is giving a negative connotation to red, because first Sutek is red, and then we get all of the underlying attributes that go along with that. So we got blood red, and we got how in ancient times is red attached to anger, and in the modern day, red is still attached to anger. Like,
Right.
you know,
That's
think
your
about
lower
that.
self, the red chakra, and then you got the red crown there too.
I don't know about the lower chakra, but this is
just to
not the
add-
red
Yo, he
crown.
tripped out.
You got to be
That's not
clear.
a trip out.
This is not the red crown, Jeshurette. This is the wrath of the red crown. So they
Right.
the is along with the misfortune, the anger. If we come right here, we see is a particular oil. We can't say nothing about that. Right here, they're talking about a red jug or a pot. Here we got the red crown again with one use case for that. But right now we got Jeshurette, fire, flame. Now remember what did Plutarch say?
Dry, arid, but hold
Fiery.
on. Though,
He said
Right,
fiery.
and fiery.
Fiery,
Dry.
arid, things that were fiery, arid, and dry got associated with Sutek, who was red. So now we even see, you can skip, I mean, we ain't even got to go through the intermediary of Sutek and see that fire, it obviously was related to red just by the nature of the color it is. So now we got...
But hold right there right quick. So don't just brush over that red crown, because you know the red crown is of lower Kemet or lower Egypt. Again, that's associating with those people of the north.
Well, that is something to indicate, yeah, the red crown don't got nothing to do with the deserty land. You feel me? It got more to do with upper and lower, and less to do with dry, fire, and arid. But I just would like to continue. So we got another use of it for fire and flame, only once. Now 35 uses of it. As notice, they didn't even put the red land, even though inside some of these use cases we'll find red land. They put desert and foreign country. As we know, the desert still qualifies for fiery, arid, and dry, going through Sutek and then becoming red, Jeshurette, just like all of these other terms get their attributes. Misfortune got attached to misfortune, and anger got attached to Jeshurette through Sutek, not just because red had something to do with anger and misfortune. We're talking about in there. Now we go into these substantive terms. We're going to see as we learn. When I first came across these substantive terms, well, it says no occurrences, but I can show you some occurrences in the legacy TLA where they're going to translate it as a red man in the red house. Let me see if I click that
This is
again.
why I keep saying it means foreigner, because it is pointing to the foreigner. Even in that book, I went a little further in that book with the second Ra, and it says that they're foreigners, and that the Egyptians from the south went up and mixed with some of them, and they're foreigners.
But
So-
but to add on to that, that blood and red and war, and death, red does associate because bloody battles.
Yeah, we're going to get to the use of that one. You're about to see that one in a minute, actually. So we got Jeshurette for red beef or red cow. Remember that? We got just for redness, like some redness, you got a bruise or something, maybe. Jeshurette, the crown again. Now we see a divine name, they say, of Jeshurette. And we got some unclear use cases. Now check this out, Jeshurette T, they say, which is red. That means that which is red, just like we got Kemet T, meaning that which is black, right? In this instance, Gessereti, which is red, they say that's talking about the sun god. But they say that's talking about the red one, the sun god. They only got 2 attestations to deliver that from, so that could be questionable. Here we got Gessereti, who is red, and now it's talking about angry Seth. Right. So Trip, the attribute of redness is on Seth as anger, and he also is red, as we learn from what Sutek tells us. I mean, not Sutek, from what Plutarch told us. Now here's one. Gessereti, desert dwellers, right? So they saying Gessereti is desert dwellers. Let's just keep looking. And now these are a series of Necherets. This used to say the red man, right? But now they changed it to red, in the house of red linen.
You said Deshereti. Wouldn't that be the inhabitants of,
Gessereti would be the red one.
Be the red man. But they changed it in this new one, because in the old one it pulled up red man a couple times.
Now they got it just saying red. But notice that this red is still an entity because they say divine name.
Right. But when they say Kemet, they want to say the inhabitants of.
Exactly. That's when we get Gessereti you. That's the bottom one we're going to get down to in a minute.
Hold on, before you go past this right here, this Deshereti that you said that they used to say for red man, if you go look at the actual text, do they have this associated with a man glyph next to it?
I think it's a divine entity next to it, but when I click into here, they're not going to have the metal netcher in there.
Oh yeah, they hid it. That's cold.
Well, they got it like they say this are the parts, but they don't got it. So they got this light red fabric. And it don't
if they got
say
a man or some type of human, I would say, yeah, they trying to do something slick.
No, I don't think they was talking about a human, but what my point is, when they're talking about an entity, just share T, they could just say red. That's fine, because if you're talking about a man entity and you got Kemeti, you just say black. You see what I'm saying? This is still a name of an entity.
Okay, I got it.
You see what I'm saying? So I'm not tripping.
So with the word red, right? They're translating it as red, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when we talking about like what they were actually referring to as red, can we say that it's the red that we know of today? Like for instance, when we're dealing with the people, the foreigners, right? We know that, those people possibly could have been, a little pale, you know what I'm saying, and turning red, or in a sense like that, versus them actually being red. Because if you look at the way Egyptians depict themselves, if you ask an Egyptologist what color did they depict themselves, they're going to say red.
Yeah,
but
I know.
really,
they do that as a linguistic trick to say that the Egyptologists depicted themselves brownish red. Jay Mills showed me a photograph where they paint Ra the same color as the people with that brownish reddish hue, which would lend some credence to that argument. But that is a very good question. I don't think the color that we see them people is the same color they would depict blood with. And blood is one of the main connections to let us know what color they was talking about, because they called this red blood the same color. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Not only that, when you talk about Africans, they didn't call white people white, they called them red. So when you go into the ancient languages, your Khoi, and when you go into your Maasai, especially the Maasai and the Kalenjin people in the Congo, they would call white people red people.
Thank you. You on point.
Till later, yeah.
So right here we got Gessereti, and they don't say, this is what I like about this one. If the root of this Gessereti was blood, then they say Gessereti is bloody victims. They're questioning if that's what that means. Remember, Asar said we're going to get to that in a minute when we was like, it's like bloody people or whatever. Well, if Jesher in this instance mean blood, they didn't divorce the root when they made the Gessereti. And likewise, it will be like that for Kemeti. But whatever the case, I just wanted to see none of these use cases in these divine names, if we look, it's going to be hard to look into these, but these are of some negative natures, bruh. Some bad natures. They're called the red ones, right? And so maybe I could pull up more on the red ones, and they're not necessarily cool. But we could also go into the names and persons and names of the Middle Kingdom and see how many people called themselves this.
Yeah. So what we're saying then, Splash, is that when they say red, in some instances, they just mean bad people, untrustworthy people. There.
No, I'm not. I wouldn't necessarily say that. All right, I'm gonna try to find this demotic text because the demotic text is gonna lay it out for you, and you can answer the question for me why they had two different spells for a red woman and a black woman.
Plus, when it means bad, they usually put that little bird there. The bird is the sign for bad things. Red can depict bad, but it generally means foreign. So even in the text where it's got Gunther Dacker and all the pros breaking it down in that book, they tell you that that's designating foreign people coming over. And the Amu at the time were the foreigners coming over from the Levant, and they weren't originating in the Levant. It says where they originated at. So most of the foreigners that are there mixed with the Egyptians, it says in the book, and they talk about what they found in some of the artifacts. But red generally depicts foreign.
Right, but then we could also go back to the fact that they didn't like the Asiatics. They were considered scumbag.
It was beef. Yeah, it was foreign. Yeah.
Not because they were foreign, because they were scumbag.
No, because they let them in the land. They didn't have a problem letting them in the land. It wasn't that they didn't like all Asiatics. It's that the Asiatics came over and got disrespectful. When they got disrespectful, then they put it in the prayers, the door bolt that keeps out the Chenahu, the door boot that keeps out the Feneku, and if you were.
But why would Plutarch even say that though, Joey? Like, what is he just making that up for?
Yeah, he was there.
Well, you see, once again, I would need more context. Because he didn't know everything. So he might even make it up, he might not even make it up. But the half made up, half made up, I don't know.
That ain't really nothing to make up. If you there on the premise and you can see how people treat each other, he probably just speaking on what he sees and what he knows. And remember, he's writing this to his girlfriend. This is a dissertation to his girlfriend, who is his teacher. She's Ethiopian.
Really?
Yeah. Clear.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, look at it. Well, okay. Well, I guess if he was wrong, there should be a letter right back saying you're wrong. Don't say that, right? I would assume, right? Or maybe there was.
Thank you, Yurik. Hey, there go Yurik again. All right, now check this out. Deal with this, Joey. You can go on and read it for yourself. What does this say?
The 9 gods will serve you. The red one.
The 9 gods will serve you in your vicinity, and they will ward off the reds for you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, all right. Okay.
What they have, red warts?
No, they're going to ward off. This means to get them away from you. They're going to keep them away from you.
Right. Ward off the red ones.
So why they need to ward off the reds?
They were bad.
Because they didn't like red people.
Well, these reds, if 9 gods are going to serve you, these reds are these evilest entities, these angry, I don't want to say, Necharu. These are some not good Necharu. That's going to get you. The red ones, bruh.
And you know that stuff is symbolic to people generally.
Hey, do you got the red light, a spell for the red woman? That's just gonna kill him right there.
Smash. Look at the throw stick for the shirt.
Yeah, I'm tripping on how he got the stick out. He finna put some work in.
So that's the foreigners. You see, when you see that stick, what it is. It says the share, it says dash, and then it's got that throw stick. And then it's got plural for those, many. So it's a problem. Sat wanted us to look at the Plutarch G next to color.
Oh, color G. No, it's just not gonna be nothing we could get. That's what that say right there. That's gonna take us. We gotta go look up the super book or whatever. And you do that, Sat 12, there go the link right there. And then you can pull us back and give us the link. Right? Yeah, and there's another one for dark on H out of Super 359. Whatever. I'm not about to do that though.
Plutarch said black is black is black is black.
So they're gonna ward off these red ones. Are these some good things you want, or you want to ward them off?
Well, that's something negative according to the package.
I think that's something negative.
But I guess that's everything in the medulla track. It has a nuance that we probably don't understand.
Yeah, that's definitely negative. And Joey, your mic coming through a little.
How about this one? They repel the red ones, impurity, at his coming, when Osiris or Seth comes. So they repel in the red ones. The red one, impurity, is repelled at his coming.
Right, but once again, we don't have. I don't think we have the cultural context to understand why is it used red in that particular way.
They did it like white
red
people.
Is angry, red is down with Sutek. I got enough context to understand it. You just don't want to really deal with that.
That's wild.
But I said, they ain't like white folk. I don't think they didn't like them because in another statement it says that they were their children. But I would say that for that foreign culture, that type of culture that they were presenting, they weren't into it. And they make statements concerning the language that they speak. Say it's kind of like it's trash, basically is what they called it. Some of the actions of the people are kind of strange. And as we keep looking up these attestations, it says red is fiery. It's not like the black. It's a bit different.
And they also said that those, the children, as you spoke about how they said they are children, that they are rowdy children, misbehaved children.
Stepchild.
So I'm not mad. He just said what he said. Therefore, because they believed that he was personally of a reddish, sallow color, that they did not. It says reddish, sallow color. They are not eager to meet men of such complexion. He didn't say they don't like them. He just said they ain't, and they don't like to associate with them. I mean, hey, I didn't say he said it.
I'm just talking shit. I'm just talking shit.
No, I'm just saying, but he just said that's how they felt. He just reporting back. Now, what's crazy about this, Smash, is that I was looking at Charles Darwin when he went to Africa, and some of the scholars that went to Africa, they say the same thing that he's saying right here. When they thought that people that were white were like ghosts. They thought of them in a negative way. So I don't understand, it's amazing that they even, what is that, like the 18th? So when they go down until, when does Darwin go down to 1800s? They're saying the same way that they felt about people with the same skin color. I could pull it up. It's going to say the same thing. It's not like they hated them or nothing, but they recognize the difference from a cultural standpoint.
And I'm gonna play advocate, and I agree with that, Pan-African James. But some of the stories of some of the books, historical books we also read that get from our education is where they always depict them. They look at them as like some purity, holy type entity. Like, oh, this is a god, bow down. But when we read in some of these texts, it's definitely not like that. You know, it's like the Native Americans looked at these people as, you know, some type of water god or something. And you even hear about that, you know, on the African continent, that they, you know, thought of those children that were, especially, I think the albino children. They considered them as some kind of special, although they couldn't go out there and work in the fields.
I tell you, there's a video of a white guy walking through an African village recently, and the people were running away from him. And he asked his interpreter, he said, "Why are they running away from me?" He said, "They think you're a ghost. You're pale and you're white." And it's on YouTube. You can see him walking through the village. And this is because most of them, especially at that time, they didn't go deep down into Africa. So just like it's amazing for some of them to see a black person, it's amazing for certain black people to see a white person because you didn't see them. It's like living in Harlem in the 90s. We wouldn't see white people unless we crossed the 110th Street 9 times out of 10.
And you're 100% right, because when I was living in Korea for a year, and sometimes I would ride the train, and some of the not the like Seoul City or some of the country citizens would ride the train, and they would like touch me. You know, they would rub my skin to see if the darkness would come off, because they never seen, you know, somebody up close and personal of that complexion. It's just weird. Oh yeah, you're right.
Here, go right here. African kid sees white guy, thinks he's a ghost. Number 50. And then he start crying. He like, ah. He thought the spirit was just touching him or something. Hold up, I'll pull up the picture while he's walking through there.
Yeah, we don't see what you're
start
showing
running
us.
away from him. Like, what in the world? Yeah, they start screaming when he came up, and then some of the teenagers, like that little kid is booking. Let me see. Hold up. I'm not gonna play the video, but I'm
Yeah,
sure
it's just
y'all
I mean, I'll be kind of amazed that we kind of be amazed at these type of thoughts. But I guess because we living out in modern times, that some of this stuff would be, you know, thought of like this.
Yeah. Fair use.
You go back, they didn't even get into the intra-African until the 1800s.
Yeah.
They didn't get the Abu symbol to the 1800s. They had never seen who was that?
Them links ain't working. I don't know what's going on, but keep going.
I'm not playing the video. I'm just showing it.
I was talking to Yurik in the chat. He was sending me links, but every time I click them, they ain't working.
That's him. They was running.
What country is he in? Do you know?
They say it, but I can't remember which one.
Okay. I see what the title is. I can just go. That's interesting, but
yeah,
and he doesn't even look like a European. He looks, you know, he's like
he do to me. I don't know what are you talking about.
Oh yeah, he do. Okay, that other angle looked like he was.
This one is running. They're running.
Yo, he said he don't even look like one.
It made the little boy touch his hand. The little boy start crying. He like, hey, go, like, yeah. Because they never seen. You know, they like, what in the world? This little kid, that's where he at.
Yeah, they probably got some type of cultural tales or something that they probably said about them to where if they seen one, they probably would do that.
Well, in Africa, they think that the spirits are usually white.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what it says in that Darwin book. That exact quote you just
hold
up, saw that exactly what you just said. That's what's off in the Darwin manual. He said that they think that they ghosts.
Yeah, because you're basically you're
like spiritless,
imperishable star. Look, this little kid, he like, oh God.
They gotta hold him down. That's a damn shame.
But let me ask you a question, sir. If you're accustomed to seeing people jet black, right? Or along those lines, and you see somebody come in looking like that, they look dead already, don't they? They really look dead. Because
black people look like they got life.
No, but hear what I'm saying. The white man would really look like he's dead.
That one you can see life in in them because they're walking around. Ain't we not that crazy. It's just that you seeing something that you never seen before. Like we got to stop going too far in these type of analogies. You just see something that's foreign to your eye. That's all it is.
It's the color, because if he was black, they wouldn't react to that. They never saw anybody with that skin complexion. It's not about what he comes from.
Now, James, I think you was talking about like Cecil Rhodes or Muhammad Ali, the king from Turkey, that went down in the like the Congo, chopping arms off and doing different atrocities.
I see we got Brother Reggie real quick.
Saber in the building. In the top.
Is your mic right, Reggie?
It's good to see all my good friends. How are y'all? Hope everything is fine.
Peace to you.
Peace, Brother Reggie.
It's all good.
I've been off of YouTube for a while. I think that some of the arguments that the opponents are continuously bringing up shows that they're just really not really read.
Hold on, why you got black screen like that?
Because this is Black Egypt, bro.
Oh, okay.
I'm the black.
Go ahead.
Good one.
I'm the blackity black, right?
Osiris.
And he coming about of the primordial waters. Of noon, you know what I'm saying? He coming out of the darkness of noon, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm cat. So this is the thing. What I find is that our opponents, they are the ones who are not scientific at all. They want to live in the past. They don't believe that there's any new research that can disturb the fact that it was Greeks who coined this concept of the black land. It was Greeks. They want to stay in the status quo, though they say that they're scientific, but they don't want to explore any evidence, any inscriptions, anything that will change the fact that the people of what we call the Nile had a black reality. I think this is an important point. They relegate any conversation about blackness to skin color. It's not us that do that, it's them. They say, well, there were other black people in Africa, so why would they call themselves black? Well, they're calling themselves a specific type of black, that skin is just one of the attributes, but not the only attribute to be black in that land, right? It had something to do with their cultural religious beliefs of a number of things, particularly their veneration of the black cows and black bulls and black oxes and black kites and other things of nature, particularly other things of nature that was black. And we identified with that because we had at least one of the attributes, right? But that is not the only attribute. And so I'm trying to encourage our, the Magi archers to say, why are you always talking about skin color when the texts say it's about a value system, culture, right? It's about history. It's about honoring their ancestors, right? It's about having a black reality. So do y'all understand what I'm saying? It's them that want to stay in the past, in what they call the status quo. It's them that don't want to disturb new research, none of our ideas. It doesn't matter if Smash finds something that says the great black man, the great black elder. It's clear as day that it says the great black elder. And some of the other agitations that he's helped us with to show that that the color black is certainly an attribute that can be applied to skin color, but it's not the only attribute. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So we are arguing with people who don't read who don't know the language, right? So I'm not talking about skin color. Skin color is just one of the attributes. It's just one of the attributes of being black. Like Clarence Thomas can be considered black, but he's not black, right? Because he doesn't have our value system. He doesn't care about our people. He don't care about our historical past.
And Reggie,
So, yes,
that's very important. What you keep bringing up is the reality that they don't want to view. They don't want to have that vantage point of the black reality. They want to stay. They've been so beaten down with the other reality that they can't see from that side of the spectrum.
no. So Smash can show you more than 20 direct attestations of humans being called black.
Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna do it on Sinetta later today, I think. I'm about to
Wait,
take a quick break.
Would you
James
say
is,
Smash?
I'm gonna do it on Sinetta later today, I think. We was talking about showing them the ancient Egyptians who called themselves black.
Okay. Well,
but I'm gonna take a quick break and listen from the other room. James is the host.
Yeah, I'm not. My whole thing is like, you know, I look, I don't want to talk about channels and stuff like that, but that's another reason why I took a break. I don't want to just be content, right? I want to help people with analysis. How can I say? I understand very well YouTube content. YouTube content is a place where you can verify, you can show, and people will borrow your ideas and not give you credit, right? For clicks and giggles, right? Not
You're
have
right
read
about
anything,
that, Reggie.
not have read anything, and so that's why I'm here. So I want to let this audience know we're not talking about skin color. You're talking about skin color. We're not talking about skin color. We're talking about a black reality that this is an early civilization of Africa that venerated black that we have inscriptions for. And you can't argue with me because you don't know the inscriptions. You can't argue with any of the Magi archers, right? Smash on the top of the list, of course. You can't because he has the inscriptions. He can show you 20 inscriptions. So at least 20 inscriptions. And that the people were herds. And the black herd was different than the Asiatic herd.
Absolutely. Now, Reggie, I wanted to ask you, since you said you're here, you know, primarily on the YouTube streets or the internet streets to continue to teach, is there any or are there any conferences coming up anytime soon that you know of?
There's an ASOR conference, but luckily, I mean, Jedam got me in the first conference, but that's very expensive. That's where Tyson Smith is, and Karakuni is, and Winderman is, and all of them go to that conference. That's going to be in Boston, and the price.
Are they going to be back in Boston?
The price of membership is $330, right?
Yeah.
And I think Jedam Ankh is going to, Jedam Ankh submitted a paper for the call to paper. She presented last year and did a very, how can I say, got not a standing ovation because they didn't stand, but he got applause. For
honorary mention.
And I think Comdiverse may apply this year to present. And when I was there, I was able to talk to Stuart Tyson Smith and Karakuni, right? But Stuart Tyson Smith's conversation was the best conversation because I said, why do Egyptologists get it all wrong? How come every time they see somebody dark in a stele, in a any type of archaeology, why do they always assign them to Nubian? And he said they got it wrong. He said that there are dark Egyptians and there are light Nubians. He said they're dark Egyptians and light Nubians. So the skin mapping is wrong, right? There are periods where sometimes this changes, but largely they actually get it wrong. And you can see with Smash when we examined the Hoi, the Vizier Hoi to Tutankhamun, and you can see the people. The only difference between the people is their haircuts and their clothing, right? That's the only difference between the two groups of people, the so-called Southerners and the so-called Egyptians. And Egypt is a fake name. Egypt is a fake name. It's a Greek name. So Egyptology is about looking at this land by the lenses of the Greeks, right? The Nile is a fake name. It was never called the Nile. That Nile comes from Nihilus. These are semi-gods from the Greek mythology. Nihilus, right? So most of the names that we use without even thinking about it are Greek names, talking about the land.
Chris,
Right?
you mean that the Nile didn't come from the Nilotic people?
No, the Nile came from Nilus in Greek mythology. So did Egypt, Egyptus, came from Greek mythology. So Busiris came from Greek mythology. The whole naming happened during the period where there was a Greek colony called Necrotis. One of the sunken cities that Jedamah talks about, that it was a Greek colony where Greeks were mercenaries, and then they were granted a colony, and then that colony traded with the rest of the Mediterranean. So no, Nile does not come from Nilotic. The Nilotic is Greek mythology because that still comes from Nilus, right? Nilotic root word is the Nile, and that comes from Greek mythology. So they have been able to rename all of that land they don't use Kemet. They don't use Kemet, they use Egypt. So and then I have in my work where I know that our opponents don't want to change, I have a dictionary, right? No, not a dictionary, but it includes a dictionary of Middle Egyptian where Kemet does not mean the Black Land. Kemet means either the Nile Valley, or it means Egypt, but it does not mean the Black Land, right? Maybe one day I'll show it to y'all, but it's a very recent dictionary. So even Egyptologists are moving away from Kemet being the Black Land. It can't be the Black Land because the root of Kemet is animals, not land. So, I just want to help you orientate yourselves. They want to stay in the past. There is no attestation whatsoever in the corpus of Egyptian literature that says that it's the Black Land, right? There is none. I would be looking for Takem, Kim-Ta. I would be looking for that. I don't see that, right? I see Kemet with the Nuit, Kemet with the humans, Kemet with the cattle. I don't see that, right? I see Black places like Kimwe, right, in Merikari, right? I see Kimware in a Threbus, right? but I see black places. And then in the eloquent peasant, the eloquent peasant, he goes down towards Kemet, right? I have Alexander Nibby that says Kemet is a black city, and it was thrown out or captured or something or desecrated, right? We have those, we have black places, we don't have black land. Don't be confused about black places and black land. Black places or places, and the land is the whole land. And there's nothing that says that the whole land was the black land. So the fight is that they want to stay in the past. And if they only have Plutarch talking about the Kimia, then that's all that they have. So everything else is in the Negro world. People do research, spend hours and hours and hours, days, months, years on a subject, and then your points are either minimized or it's just for clicks and giggles.
Now, Reggie, don't use that old word Negro. They don't want you to use that word. That's a archaic word that, they associate themselves with slavery. They don't like that word. That's what Diop used, Negro and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they use it in Egyptology. So they use it. Budge used it, right? Bresset used it. Petrie used it. They all used it. What we can't do is say that we're only using it because you used it, right? So when your experts was using the word Negro and calling the Nehesi Negroes, that was okay, right? Yep. But we can't say that these groups of people were indigenous Africans. We can't say that, but you could say that. It's all right. White ice is colder. It's all right when white folks called us Negroes for years. In
association with who we are.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what they did.
Check out the Diop. Peace of saw. How you doing, my good brother? But the issue is that there was, even if you were from other places when you were living in Africa, you became African. You became part of the continent. You had to, because of the ecology. So you had to live like an African, right? For a long while, and you admix with Africans. You admix with Africans. So to survive, because you didn't bring your women, right? So we're gonna have, and because of human skin color and because of the sun, we're gonna have diversity. We're gonna have diversity. So that's not the issue, but the issue is we know that this civilization had a Black reality based on the attributes of their netters, the attributes of the cattle, the attributes of humans calling themselves, like Herman Rank, work that Smash talks about all the time, that they called themselves Kim and Kemet in their surnames, right? But they have tried to take the word Kemet and make it only mean Egypt and make it only mean Black land, right? And we have Black folks that, how can I say, they're not in the libraries, they're not in the conferences, they're not in, they don't know the language, but for clicks and giggles, we'll take them seriously. Now, the difference is, I always value, believe it or not, Unck's argument, because I think it was a necessary argument to get around. I always thought Unck's argument was a necessary argument to get around, right? But I challenge him to show meat on the plate. Show me some inscriptions that prove your point, right? I understand the issue of why what other people call themselves Black if they was Black. So I fixed that to understand that their Blackness was a sacred, venerated Blackness, not just skin color Blackness. So when you say Black, you only mean skin color. You only mean skin color. And when I say Black, I say it's venerated and it's sacred to that culture.
Facts. Facts. I think right now they have to
Now, now, ready. Now, ready. When I say Black, I mean African, and I think most people know what I mean when I say Black, and I'm talking about Africa.
What do you mean?
I think I heard that before. No, I think I heard that.
What do you mean? I just have to make sure. What do you mean, Black?
I don't mean a thing. I just think I heard that somewhere.
Right. So when people say
talking about equal not really.
Right. So what does Black mean? There's not necessarily one way to be Black, right? We have people in Africa that are really Black, blue Black, that do crimes, right? Is the minute that a crime comes into being, right? Then they have a different type of Blackness. They only have a skin color Blackness, but they don't have a moral and ethical, cultural Blackness, right? Because those Black netters, right? You could take Men, you could take Usir, you could take a Set, you could take Nebhet, you could take Impu, you could take any of those, and they follow a culture. They follow values, right? So any Black person that's committing a crime in Africa, their skin color may be what we might call dark or Black, but their value system is not of what that culture talks about. If you want to talk about East Fed, you're going to talk about Seth. Then you're going to talk about Red. If you're going to talk about what bulls to be slaughtered, you're going to be talking about the slaughter bulls, which are the red bulls. You're also going to be talking about the Asiatics, right? So the value system on a color red is, which is can be dark, is not the value system is not the same as Men, Shu, Impu, Aset, and Nebhet, the two Black kites, right? It's not that. It's not that. And then they have a very interesting concept of when Seth was fighting Horus, right? And Seth was fighting Horus, and Seth tried to use Black pigs, right? So now the use of Black pigs means that it's a disguise. The color is Black, but the value system is different. So the people that we're arguing with, first, if they don't have the skills, we need to cite that, do you have the skills, right? And who are you citing? If you're going to cite Egyptologist, then that's just where you are. But that means that you're not useful because you don't want to challenge anything. You don't want to challenge. It's like being religious. You don't want to challenge the Bible. So you're just being religious Egyptologist. You're a believer. You don't know how to read the text.
Yeah, Reggie.
You don't know how to read it.
Excuse me, Elder, because I think you really did yourself a great disservice by taking a chill pill, sitting back, gathering your thoughts, because this has been a wild thing for a lot of us for the last maybe 5 years, right? But I can see that you really thought about this, because the same thoughts that you're saying right now, I echo those thoughts to the same degree. Like the people that we're talking about, they are really just fringe, and they really seemingly don't care. This is just entertainment for them. And you have a lot of people that have come along here lately, a little bit younger crowd, and they definitely just take everything that their ancestors and elders the progression that we did as a joke, speaking like of Pan-Africanism. I know maybe some people don't agree with that, but when I look to the leadership that we had, all of them, the strongest leadership that we had, all of them were Pan-African based, including Malcolm, even though he had an Islamic, dilution in his Pan-Africanism, if I could say it that way. But it was Pan-Africanism that it was his main spirit that he used to try to help our people. Everybody, when you start to ask for African leadership outside of Pan-Africanism, what do you got? See what I'm saying? When you're attacking Pan-Africanism, then when somebody counters that and asks you, what is the African-American leadership outside of Pan-Africanism that was stronger than the Pan-African leadership that we had? I would like to identify.
I would put context. I would just add, just so that you don't get tripped up and we don't get tripped up. Islam in Africa was at some point Pan-African, right? I mean, there were huge Islamic empires that were black, right? That you could walk from one territory to another territory and be a black Muslim and not have a problem. The Arab Islam had always been a problem. So we have to, as scholars and thinkers, we have to factor in Islam, the positive parts of Islam until it became negative. We have to factor. Yes.
Robin Walker speaks on how West African history got suppressed because of, Islam. I've heard him speak on that before.
Well, let me chime in real quick. I would say instead of looking for a North American or an American Pan-African viewpoint, I would say look to Burkina Faso today, and let's support Burkina Faso and Traoré.
Well, that's a very local view of Pan-Africanism, but they're isolated. So when we have different strategies on Pan-Africanism. We have Dr. Cheikh Anta Diop's Federated States, Federated Black States concept.
Reggie, I would have to politely disagree that that's isolated because you'd have to. I mean, if you're not familiar with what's going on in Burkina Faso, it's very much global. I mean, it's Russia, France, and also Mali, Morocco, even South Africa, and Nigeria, and a couple of other. I think Uganda.
But they don't have a solution. They don't have a solution for all of Africa. They have something that they are. They have a particular characteristic that is for Burkina Faso, their particular action. Like I've seen Thomas Sankara. I don't know if you know Thomas Sankara. Thomas. Oh, you heard the name? Well, he was the president of Burkina Faso.
That's who Traoré is.
Right. But
he mimics his teachings.
Yeah, but I literally seen Thomas Sankara when he came to the United States. They are mimicking what Thomas Sankara was certainly doing or attempting. But what they're doing, one of the positive things that they're doing is that they're anti-French, right? So they're anti-French.
I think they're more pro Burkina Faso.
Right, and that makes it local. That makes it local.
Well, they're not just Burkina Faso. That's where it starts, but then it's spreading out. The other states are connecting too, because the AE, the African, the African Union, and I don't want to speak too much politics on it because I mean, he's had several, supposedly several life threats and actual threats, and millions of dollars are being funneled to try to. But I'm rooting for him. I'm rooting
Well,
for him.
yeah, I mean, listen, I mean, Gaddafi was Pan-African, right? These are local strategies, right? But it has not went to it's not made any fruition.
They keep killing everybody. Hold on, they keep killing everybody that we talking about. How can you get progress when they killed Thomas and Cora? They killed Gaddafi. You see what I'm saying? So they kill all of the leadership once we start. So we know how this works. You know what I'm saying? But the mission, no matter if they kill one of them or not, or one of us or not, is to continue on with what the mission is.
Well, I'm
right. And Reggie, I don't understand what you mean by like we're symbolizing North America or American Pan-Africanism as global, and you know the conference, the main conference took place on the continent of Africa, and
which main conference?
The first conference took place in Europe,
right? Manchester. So the Pan-African conferences took place in Europe. So it was Pan-Africanism was an idea in the old days, hopefully to be to spread throughout Africa. But the OAU and the AU, they
split.
They separated themselves. The later part, they separated themselves away from the African American and the Caribbean. Yeah. So I don't want to. My whole thing is we can have a whole show again on Pan-Africanism, but what's ahead of us right now, not to be distracted, is understanding why Kemet and Kemetiu is important. That's why I clicked on for Pan-Africanism, because the people of Tawi, the Kemetiu, the Kemet people, they weren't Pan-Africanists. They weren't Pan-Africanists at all. So right now,
they have some values though. I think they it may be the foundation.
No, they call other people. They call other people babblers. They call everybody else babblers. You can't even talk. You can't write. You can't speak. They were isolated group of people, except for their trade and when they wanted to lend out technology. But they were isolated. You could come to their festivals. You could come into their land, but they're trying to make vassals.
Well, I mean, I agree to a certain degree, but I also would say that they didn't have a problem with the people of Punt too much. And
they didn't have the problem with what?
The people of
Punt? No, they didn't have a problem with the people of Tanecha per se, but that was also kind of far away from them. And their mythology says that they're related. However, they did have a problem with other groups, the Chicheno, the Tamil, the Nahesi, right? They did have a problem with them. At some points, they were the Nine Bows. Sometimes they weren't. They were not trying to. They did go to Chad. We know by evidence they went as far as Chad. And we know they went across the Wadi Har, the Yellow Nile, but they weren't trying to how can I say extend much of their borders.
Okay, let me ask you this, Reggie. If we just looking back at history, right? Just having a conversation, mentioning what you just mentioned. And then looking at the end result of what happened, them falling later on, and not to say that any civilization is going to stay on top forever, but don't you think that might have been one of their problems? And then based on what we're looking at today, well, all of the strong nations like India is one big thing, it's a billion of them. China is one big thing, and it's a billion of them. America's only 4% of the global population. So the threat to America is these particular people with these large populations. If we were smart, don't you think that we would probably just go ahead and consolidate, make Africa one big thing, would put us in the billion range too, and then we would be one of the stronger.
Well, Diop
I know, and you know the Diop. We already had this idea. What I'm just saying is, when we're looking at this like this, like, doesn't this just make sense? Go ahead.
It would make sense if you didn't have an enemy, but you do have enemies who want your resources. But the problem with the civilization that we're talking about, right? Their biggest mistake, biggest geopolitical mistake, was building these huge pyramids. You can see them for hundreds of miles. You're inviting people to come in for these monuments that they have how can I say, granite on it, shiny, right? That they're white. You could see them for hundreds and hundreds of miles. Dejected people, resource poor people, they want that. So that civilization has always been a target. In my opinion, they should have built more forts. They should have built more walls. They should have built more weaponry, right? And they should have struggled to get along with other Africans rather than
that's
be isolated. And so ultimately they got their ass kicked. And then Sudan tried to come in and save them, but some of those people that was in that region, they basically didn't want the Nubians to come in. They want to be vassals of the Syrians, right? And so they didn't unite to defeat the Assyrians, right? So because there's problems of jealousy. And then the priesthood, who how can I say, there were great scientists that I call priests, right? But then there was the religious people that wanted to control people over funerary stuff. And they had large lands, large estates, and they rivaled the king, and they usurped the king. And they weakened the civilization. But my conversation is, and maybe I think it's time for me to go, but is that the argument on Kemet is basically, we're willing to change with more evidence, more inscriptions, right? More science. They are not willing to change. They have no inscriptions. They're acting unscientifically. They're relegating everything to skin color, right? And we're not unified enough to convince this mixed audience that we have of mostly now. The religious people have been emboldened. The Hebrews have been emboldened, like by us. So what they're doing is they're learning and they're creating better fake arguments. And
that was beautiful. I noticed the same thing. That's crazy. Because when we first started this journey back in the Kemet on trial, they didn't know what to do because they had never heard of that. Because you got to remember, if you go back to biblical times, they were saying that they were the enemy of Kemet and we had enslaved them, and that they, that was the narrative. Then you got people that got their name is Hebrew Kemet. They've intertwined the history, some people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And changed the argument. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, Reggie.
So we taught them, we actually had to teach those barbarians, right, about the land. And so now they're creating better fake arguments. I don't listen, I've been on this journey like 10 years. I don't have time to be talking to incompetents who can't even read Hebrew, who don't understand Hebrew law, right? Who say they do, but they never been there. They never put their money where their big fat mouths are. They don't go to the land, and they're not fighting for Israel, right? But the Bible says that Israel has to be, it's the lost sheep have to come together and in order for their revelation or their end of the end of the world, that Israel has to be, it's Israel the place that has to be taken for Israelites, right? They've created Israel in America, right? They've created Israel in America. And we don't even know the difference between F.S. Cherry and Crawley. A lot of us don't. Crawley was like Moses. He had an experience. He went into the woods. His hair turned white. He came back. He said, we are those people. Then there's F.S. Cherry, who basically says that we are the original Hebrew Israelites. Moses and everybody else was black. And but then says, makes it morally a moral argument that says we can't be those the white folks are not Israelites, right? As if it was a moral reason, but if you study the Bible, you find that the slavery documents came directly from Israel and from those other empires or those Iran and Iraq, right? So slavery was embedded in this culture, and forget about proving Abraham. They can't prove Moses. They can't prove Moses. They don't know that Moses met a Saudi Arabian god. Yahweh was a Saudi Arabian god. He wasn't a Canaanite god. He was a Saudi god. Do you understand that? Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening, but
do you understand that Midian? Do you know where Media is? Median? Media is in Saudi Arabia. Jethro was in Saudi Arabia.
Facts.
They are worshiping a Saudi Arabian god, a local Saudi Arabian god that in the Iron Age made himself and joined with El. Canaanites worship El, Midians worship Yahweh. Shashu of Yahweh is Saudi Arabian God. They talk about, their birthright, their birthright, their bloodline. Is your bloodline Saudi Arabia? Because that's your God's bloodline.
And Jesus is from Palestine. But they still
exactly.
They keep toting us the Arab religion and trying to portray or pretend it's you, just because when you got brought over here, you was trying to find yourself in the Bible to justify fighting back, which Nat Turner did. But no, that's not. No.
Yeah, see that. Yeah, so that was cool in Nat Turner's time. Because just think, he just coming up out of illiteracy as far as text, not even being able to have any type of knowledge of history. But as we progress on to like the Dr. Clarks, Reggie's, and into our era right now, we should be able to understand, give Nat Turner his space, and then understand that we progress to now, we got a full understanding of everything. Like, why we got to stay stuck way back then?
Well, remember, during his time, all you could read was the Bible because they didn't want you speaking your language. They only wanted you reading that if they even allowed you to read that, and it was forced upon you. So when you turn around and say, oh, no, see, so-and-so came over here like this. When we first got over here, hardly anybody black was Christian.
Listen, they manufacture, do you understand they manufacture, they made it Nat Turner the main personality, but he was not the main personality. The insurrection was done by other groups of people who were African, right? and then Nat Turner, they made Nat Turner the so-called leader, right? But the other people, the other African, they weren't following the Bible. They didn't care about the Bible. They killed white folks where they stood. Nat Turner, they created, it's a perspective on Nat Turner, right? If you read his whole story, you can find out that that he had an African experience in the woods, right? And you can see who his mother was, right, and his grandmother. So what they do is if you don't study your history, you don't read, and these people don't read, right? Then they can come up with smart, slick things, and it doesn't always end well. Like Pharaoh and Nature Boy and a whole bunch of these people, it doesn't end well for them. Because they don't study history. They're here to use their charisma to manipulate you. But so I'm just saying to you on the issue of the civilization that we study, right? We're not talking about skin color only. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a moral, ethical, cultural connection to a Black reality, that this culture venerated Blackness, right? And at the same time, the Europeans did everything that they can do to relegate Blackness to death, funerary, right? And they missed the fact that these people worship Black cows, Black bulls, Black animals, and made them sacred, right? And so sometimes there's we get pushed into non-arguments. We argue the wrong things. So when Diop talks about Negro, he's talking about indigenous Black Africans, right? He's not just talking about skin color. He's talking about that they were indigenous. They looked like indigenous people. They didn't look like those foreigners, right? You can push it to skin color, but that's not what Dr. Diop was talking about. Dr. Diop was not talking about. He's talking about a culture. He's talking about civilization, and he's talking about indigenous Africans, right? At the time that he was arguing, there were people who were saying that there was these Black, white Africans. They were arguing racism, eugenicism. They was arguing that. So Diop in 1956, he tried to reorientate the discussion. Was he right about everything? No, but he did give us the concept of a multidisciplinary research. So he changed the whole field. So, but those people who want to argue with us, do you understand what I'm saying? They are arguing skin color, not we. We're not arguing skin color. They're forcing us into a skin color. But if you read, you find out it's not about skin color. It's about chosen people. And one of the attributes is skin color. One of the attributes is the color of the Black Apis bull. That's a starting point, but that's not the only point. Do you understand that?
Definitely.
I mean, don't let these people minimize me. I actually was in the presence of the great elders, was their aides, right? Fetched their books, right?
Man, that's
not
an honor,
them.
Reggie. Yeah, that's an honor, Reggie. Don't even
not any of them, but they want to minimize me. YouTube has minimized me as a goddamn joke, right? I gotta talk to uneducated people who didn't even get a goddamn GED, and they want to argue with me. So one of the only people who was able to get a journal article accepted, and if you look for Black cattle culture, ancient Nile Valley, you will see my name pop up. right? And today, and get off, for the last couple of weeks, I am helping prepare a Jewish man who was called a nigger by a mixed woman, right? In a lawsuit of defamation. Why? Because I can't let them minimize the word nigger to mean nothing, that everybody can use the word nigger for everybody. So I'm going to win this case. I'm right now I'm striking their affirmations, their defense. Let me get it right. I am striking their denials and their affirmative defenses. I'm talking about the defendants who called this Jewish man a nigger. If you can call a Jewish man a nigger, then anybody could be a nigger, and it has no value. So the
That's
statement
deep,
is false.
Yo, boy, you a cold brother. He don't even want to, y'all, boy. Hold up, man. You don't even want to give it. That's beautiful. That's what I'm talking about.
I've already gotten there. They try to dismiss the case. I've already got the dismiss denied.
Yo, hold up. I gotta get this right. So you saying that it's value in it. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying
everybody can't be this because the value of it in association with your people.
Yeah, you cannot use that word nigger in business. You can't take what a term that killed millions of black people, enslaved millions of black people, all the while they were calling us niggers, and you just can't use that word in business in New York City.
Right.
In any conversation, you can't use that word nigger. So that's why I've been working on this case. Right? You're gonna have to put the historical connection to the word nigger when you use that word nigger, right? And so our problem is of course we use the word amongst our own, but when we use it, we're just saying that person is ignorant, that person is not like us. But you can't use that word and call somebody Latino a nigger, right? A Jewish person a nigger, a Chinese person a nigger. You can't do that because they're out of that historical context, right? And so I have been able to deny their dismissal of this case. It doesn't matter that he's Jewish, but that helps my case because that makes in defamation, right? In defamation, the first thing is it true? So if it's not true, that's one of the cornerstones. The other cornerstone of defamation is it harmful? Well, she called him a nigger twice, so that's harmful. She tried to inflict emotional infliction on him. The other one was it published without privilege or authorization? So in this case, it was shared throughout my community, right? So those are the three parts of the cornerstone, and then it has to deal with the technical hocus pocus that goes on in court, right? Did you file it right? Now, my thing is my thing is the reason one of the reasons why I'm doing it is because I waiting for one of these effing YouTubers, right, to defame me, to do defamation on me, and I will take their house, their car, their computer, their apartment. See, I'm not nice. See, so I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for somebody to, some group of people to open up their big mouths and say the wrong thing. So I know law, I know my court, right? And I don't care what attorney they hire. The attorney is just gonna bill them, but I'm gonna beat them. So I use these as practical skills. So I think that's all I want to say. But I do want to say it. Let's not argue skin color. Skin color is only one of the attributes. It's not. It's not the only attribute. There were Nosut biddies that were brown. Some were lighter. Some were darker. Some were even the darkest of the darkest. Right? So they were not homogeneous. So let's not lose that argument. Let's just say that they had a Black reality and that they did call themselves Black people, but it's not based on just skin color. It's based on culture. And I'm hoping that helpful, because otherwise you're going to let them relegate you into attacking Diop, attacking other people and for baseless claims.
That's what's been going on.
Huh?
That's what's been going on. They've been attacking Diop, Dr. Clark, Dr. Ben, everybody that's been on the same historical page, people that did actual real work. They've been attacking that for about the last 10 years.
Exactly.
So this ain't.
I'm gonna get ready to go on Sonetta. I'm gonna go on Sonetta in about an hour or two, so I'm gonna close down and then come back on there. Just talking about stuff y'all seen already, but I want to show his audience some of them Kim glyphs and all this stuff.
Right on.
All right.
All right, thanks for tapping in. Anybody got last words?
Yeah, kick them in the nuts.
All right,
no, but Smash.
What's
up?
Smash,
make them pay you, Smash. Make them pay you. You're worth.
Smash, I'm out.
You're worth something, Smash.
Word up. Oh, damn. James ended the meeting on you, Reggie. I hear you though. Smash is worth something, but I ain't tripping right now. All right, y'all. I'm gonna see y'all next time. Peace. We out. Oh, let me see. Yeah, we up out of here. Come to Sonetta TV later on today. Represent Magi Archers. Arrows up. Peace.
I've lost track on whether this includes reciprocals, it doesn't, and how we got to 145%, Katie.
Yeah, and this really is about math and how these tariffs layer on top of each other, as there are different tariff regimes that China is subject to. As President Trump made clear yesterday in his post on Truth Social, he has raised the reciprocal tariff rate on China to now 125%. That, of course, has been escalated multiple times due to China's retaliation, but that did not include the 20% tariff place on Chinese goods earlier this year over the trade of fentanyl. So it's about adding that 125 to that 20% that was already existing, which gets us to the total rate of 145%. Now, this was actually all there in the White House's fine print, but obviously it's difficult to understand with this massive big story how all of these tariffs work together. It does seem that this is a figure higher, at least, than the market previously understood it to be, which is why we are seeing things take a turn. And this comes despite the fact that President Trump in the Oval Office yesterday said that he couldn't imagine taking tariffs on China any further than he already had. Perhaps this is further than was previously understood, keeping in mind that China has still an 84% retaliatory rate on U.S. goods. It remains to be seen whether or not they will escalate that further, whether or not they are willing to pick up the phone and talk to Donald Trump. Deal thinks China wants to make a deal, but we have seen no sign of that yet, as this trade war between the two largest economies only seems to be intensified.
And so, Gabe, the administration, and we just heard one representative of the administration saying this was really all part of the concept that the president had to begin with. Where do things stand as as of right now. And who convinced the president to change his mind on this?
Hi there, Jose. Yeah, all part of the plan. That's what we're now being told, even though we were told something completely different a few days ago by top White House officials who said this was not a negotiation.